right. Let's see, did that do it? See if that worked. Can you see and hear me right now? Hopefully you can. All right. Excellent. Welcome, welcome everybody to Paleontologizing. It's so good to have you here. We are broadcasting to you live from wild and not so windy today. Hopefully not, cross your fingers. Western Wyoming, out here in the middle of nowhere, kind of near the town of Green River, Wyoming, in the Late Cretaceous almond formation. I'm back at the Ceratopsian site today. We are digging up a new horned dinosaur. Very good chance that this is going to be a new species or even a new genus. And we just did some overburden this morning, moved away a bunch of that rock, and we're finding new bones already. So it's a good day. It's a good day. And I'm glad you can be here for it. For anybody who's here for the very first time, let me introduce myself. Whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the VOD on Twitch or on YouTube, I'm glad you're here. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. A paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils. I work on dinosaur fossils in particular, and that's what we're digging up back here. I'm excited to show you around. Let's see who's here right now. It is a beautiful sunny day, and it's not too windy, it's not too hot. It's pretty good for Western Wyoming, I gotta say. It's a beautiful day. And the puppies. So dog's at a different site today. Yeah, Edie is at the hadrosaur skin site, the Lexington hadrosaur site. But it's so good to have everybody here. How was your breakfast, and what did you have? Asked Freelancer. Today, I just had a protein shake for breakfast, and it was great. I can get my breakfast and my morning hydration done at the same time, and I don't know, since I'm here for the duration. I'm going to be here for all 30 days of fieldwork this year, and I don't know, I'm kind of helping run camp too, so having breakfast quickly, getting it done fast is important so I can help out with other stuff. Yeah. Anywho. Speaking of which, answering that question there, if anybody here has got any questions at all, do not hesitate to ask them. That's the whole point of these broadcasts, is for you to be able to ask questions live and maybe to be able to answer them. This is the best way that I know how to do science outreach from here in the field, and I'm really, really excited you can be here. It's a privilege to be able to share this with you. So again, I'm glad you're here. How many sites are you running between this on this current fieldwork? So we've got this site, we've got another hadrosaur site. Well, this is the Ceratopsian site, horned dinosaur. We've got the hadrosaur site with the skin impressions and the fossilized skin. We've got the other hadrosaur site with the Barnum Brown bucket. And we've got what we call Turtle Hill over here too. And that is like a microsite and a plant site. So we've got a bunch of microvertebrate fossils, bones of fishes and other critters like that, including a big old bowfin fish. That sucker would have been huge. And some beautiful plants. I'll be showing you that another time. Gorgeous, gorgeous plant fossils coming out of there. All kinds of leaves of laurels and dogwoods and magnolias and redwoods. Pretty neat stuff. Really scientifically important too, because the flora of the almond formation has never been studied before. So anything that we find is going to be really important. Help us decipher what this environment was like 73 million years ago. Do any of the digs allow volunteers to help? Yes, almost everybody here is volunteering. Nobody's getting paid, really. Yeah, and we'll go meet some of those volunteers in just a minute. But yeah, love how they've renamed them by what you have dug up, says Ava Little. Renamed them? What do you mean? Yeah. And... well, thank you, Niffler. 100 streams. You've got a 100 stream watch streak? That is impressive. Yeah. And Miss Capri Kell, very nice. The teen dinosaur. Yeah, we've got some crew members who work at the Denver Museum in like a volunteer capacity. They're here on our dig, and they're pretty excited about that new exhibit as well, telling me about that. It was from North Dakota, I think, right? A family discovered it. Yeah. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. And do I ever get a bone name wrong? Of course, Miss Yvette. We misidentify bones all the time because when you're digging something out of the ground, you're just going bit by little bit. And so oftentimes you have a hunch as to what something is before it's fully exposed. It's like, oh, this looks like the end of a humerus. And you keep going and it's like, oh, nope, shoot, that's a tibia right there. That kind of thing. It happens all the time. Comes with the territory. How heavy do the samples get? So the specimens that we'll get out of here, some of them are going to weigh a couple 100 pounds probably. Yeah, which makes it difficult because we've got to try and walk that back down to the vehicles, and that gets tough. Yeah. Oh, yesterday buckets. Oh, yeah, so Ava Little, I just said buckets. It's called the Dell Hadrosaur is what it's officially called. The Dell site. But if I say that, nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. So I say the bucket site, and then, you understand. But yeah. And new goggles, too? Oh, I've had these for a couple years, but somebody in chat got me these like 3 years ago. So, yeah. We were doing a lot of overburden earlier, moving a bunch of rock. There's dust flying everywhere. It's important to protect your eyes. So, yeah. If we do get a huge gust of wind and dust blowing around, I want to have these easy access so I can just pop them on. Don't have to interrupt the stream. And have I ever found any pterosaur bones? JoJo easy mode? I have not. Personally, no. Pterosaur bones tend to be pretty darn rare in the sorts of areas where I've done field work. Pterosaurs had extremely thin, hollow bones, very lightweight. They don't preserve very well, and, yeah. So, it'd be awesome to find some pterosaur material, but I've never personally found any. Yeah. Yeah. And hey, Science Streams, how are you doing? It's wonderful to have you here. Bulent, I hope you're having a great day. It's great to see you. Welcome back to Wyoming. We're digging at the Ceratopsian site today. We've got 4 different sites going concurrently right now, and I'm kind of hopping around to different sites each day, helping them out, helping train some of the new guys, and showing you at home what we're doing. So I'm glad you're all here. Did you find anything interesting today? Oh yeah, we got some new bones. And what's your largest specimen find to date? Oh boy. Something I've personally found? I found a big Triceratops skull in the Hell Creek in 2015. Like a big adult Triceratops. Or nearly adult. Yeah, Count Tricula. That's the site name I came up with. We've had so many different Triceratops sites with Museum of the Rockies that it's tough to come up with original names. And that was the one I came up with for that. Yeah, that would have been a pretty darn big animal. And then I've dug a couple sauropod bones down in Utah as well from probably a Patasaurus or Camarasaurus. So that animal would have been probably 50, 60, 70 feet long, something like that. Yeah. In terms of skeletons, the biggest dinosaur skeleton I've ever excavated was probably Yoshi's trike. Which, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really a sauropod guy, or else I'd have bigger dinosaurs to tell you about. Yeah, and everything's been herbivorous so far, Ava Little. Just ceratopsians and duckbill dinosaurs. Horned dinosaurs and duckbills. Let's go up there and I'll show you what's going on right now, and you can meet some of the crew members. Yeah. And Triceratops are not closely related to birds. They're from the totally opposite end of the dinosaur family tree from birds. Yeah. That's actually how we define dinosaurs. That's one way of defining them, is dinosaurs are the common ancestor of Triceratops and birds and all the descendants of that common ancestor. So Triceratops is on exactly the opposite end of the dinosaur family tree from birds. Yeah. All right. Got a lot of great questions already. Frozen Yak. We'll talk about that extensively when I get back from the field, but that's always a topic of conversation. Dinosaur ontogeny. How can we tell juveniles from adults? That kind of thing. It's kind of a soapbox of mine. Anyway, here we've got the Ceratopsian site. Here's the guys working. Nice. So this morning, everything that you see that's kind of yellow right there, chat, that was all under rock here. We had to clear all of that away. So basically the quarry wall was about right there where you are, right, Takuya?
Yes, I believe, yes.
Quarry wall this morning?
Yeah, this is.
So yeah, we moved all of that away this morning to get down to the bone layer. And yeah, this is exciting stuff. We're already starting to find new bones, so the fruits of our labor are already starting to show up.
Would you like to see the bone here?
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Here's Nick again, everybody.
What's up?
Yeah.
What's up, my fan club?
Yeah.
Here you can see, I think, part of a frill.
Look at that. And it's shiny like this because we put some glue on it.
And then there's another piece of bone right around here.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
you might be extending outward or inward.
Nice.
So that's why I took that wall down.
Yeah. And this looks frilly. I mean, it looks like more ceratopsian frill, which is really exciting. The more frill we find of this animal, the more of the skull we find, the more likely it is that we can describe this as a new genus or species, and be able to demonstrate that it's different from all other ceratopsians. Chances are it will be because of the particular age of these rocks that we're working in, but you got to actually demonstrate that it's something new. And the frill and the face, the horns, the whole skull of these animals is basically the part of them that seems to evolve the most quickly, or at least it's the easiest, the most diagnostic part of the animal. So the more of that we can find, the better. Yeah. Very cool.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about what part of our head corresponds to the frill of the ceratopsian?
Yeah,
dinosaurs?
I've got a visual aid for that. I've got a Scott Hartman skeletal that I'll bring up here and I'll show them a little bit. Why don't you introduce yourself, Takuya?
I'm good. I'm Takuya Kunishi. I'm working here from University of Cincinnati. I usually work on marine reptiles called mosasaurs, but any field work experience is valuable, and I'd be happy to be here out in the West, digging mud and helping find new bones of the dinosaurs.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome having Takuya here. Really fun conversations, and it's been cool talking about marine reptiles and all kinds of stuff. And you've done a little bit of work on dinosaurs as well.
Yeah.
You've published on dinosaurs before, right? One, yeah.
Secret.
A ceratopsian, right?
Yes, yeah. Too much information.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Nice. And we got Colin over here too.
Hello.
Yeah. First time on the stream, right?
First time on the stream, first time field work, first time out west. So
Nice.
bunch
A lot
of
of
firsts.
firsts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a volunteer at the Carnegie Natural History Museum in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I work with Matthew Lamanna, who is the head curator out there. And yeah, got brought on this, absolutely loving it. First time camping too, so
Really?
we're rough and tough in it. We are.
That's awesome. What a trial by fire. Yeah, first time camping and digging dinosaurs and everything else. Yeah. What do you think of Wyoming so far?
It's absolutely beautiful.
It's middle of nowhere, but it's
Middle of
pretty awesome.
It's pretty
Yeah. I love being out here.
contrasting to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Any Pennsylvanians in the chat right now? Meaning people from Pennsylvania, not organisms that lived during the Pennsylvanian period. But that would be cool too. If you lived during the Pennsylvanian period, let us know. Yeah, and we got Quinn.
Little chat.
Yeah. And nice, we got some bone over here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
after we just took down this overburden, I was sweeping away and saw this was poking out, and now I'm working on it. It's not been too friendly to me. This sediment right here is breaking away super easily, so it's like kind of exploding this bone.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Not as nice as over there, but hopefully we can see what this thing is.
Yeah, looks like it's going to drink up a lot of glue as you continue to expose it.
Yeah.
Thirsty stuff.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough, but
Yeah.
this is what we're here for, chat. Come on.
Yep. This is an amateur hour. This is the real deal.
Yeah.
We got a good crew here, so
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Sarah Top Dogs over here.
Sarah Top Dogs, I like it. Did we get that nail put back in too?
Yes.
Yeah, we should probably talk about this for a minute. As a professional crew, we're not Mickey Mousing it out here. This is a real deal. Data collection is a huge part of what we do, and so we've got these data spikes right here with our coordinates, so that we can make sure that we have everything mapped onto a grid. Documentation is extremely important for this. We want to be able to gather any information we can about this animal, about its environment, about its taphonomy, the way that it may have fallen apart. It did fall apart after it died, clearly. Any sort of information we can glean about that will be important stuff. And that's part of, digging on public land and getting permits is documenting everything properly. So, yeah. I'm going to head back down here, guys, for a few minutes, but I'll probably be back in a bit. Yeah. Thanks again. Yeah. What's that?
You might not know who I am from previous.
You've got some devotees in the chat for sure. And we're just kind of starting off too. I've only got 389 viewers right now. We'll have like a couple thousand probably by the end of the stream.
Ed hops on, tell him I say hi.
Will do. Thanks, Quinn. Yeah, there have been some good questions. Let me catch up to those. And yeah. Oh, and also, can I get a favor from the moderators? Let me know in a little bit. I need to be able to, I'm trying to conserve my battery here. I'm sort of juggling things. So let's take a look at where we're at 95%, and I've been going for 30 minutes, so that's 10% an hour. Can you let me know, mods, in 2 hours that 2 hours have passed? Remind me, because I've got to plug in the encoder to make sure that the internal battery doesn't die. It's a juggling act between different batteries right now to make sure that I can stream for as long as possible with limited juice. So let me know in 2 hours that 2 hours have passed, and I'll plug that in. Yeah. Well, yeah. And are you seeing a main fossil layer, or are the bones more distributed? They'll pretty much always be if it's from one organism, they're always going to be horizontally distributed, so they'll be in the same layer. But if you've got, there's this idea of, it's like one of the fundamental concepts in geology is original horizontality. This idea that when rocks are laid down, they're laid down flat in a horizontal layer. Gravity tends to do that, And so here there's been a little bit of a tilt. So there's a little bit of a tilt to the fossil bed up there, but everything's in the same layer. All these ceratopsian bones belonging to the same animal are in that same layer. If other stuff got buried below or buried above, then it'll be below or above. But everything from this animal is in the same layer horizontally. Might be a little tilted, but you're not going to have bones from this animal 10 feet up higher or 10 feet down below. No. These rocks take a long time to accumulate, so any given animal that died and was buried here, it's all going to be in the same layer, if that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, and very neat, Dinosaur Dave. That sounds cool. I hope your trip is going well. It's good to see you. Yeah. And this is the same site from last year, Orange Boy. Yes. When we were digging the ceratopsian here with Nick Longrich, and we had that, we made a big jacket. We had part of the frill there. That's this same site. So last year, we didn't have permission to be able to dig a gigantic hole. We had what we call a prospecting permit, which allows us to walk along and find bits of bone and then dig like a 1 meter by 1 meter square hole in order to collect stuff off the surface and from below the surface. But, 1 meter by 1 meter. Now we've got carte blanche to dig as much as we need to in order to get this animal out. It doesn't mean we're going to knock down the whole hill, obviously, because that's way too much work and it would be too, intrusive on the landscape, and we don't want to do that. But we can dig as big a hole as we need to get this dinosaur out this year. And so that's part of what we did this morning, is clearing away a lot of that rock. Doing what we call overburden, using picks and shovels and sometimes hammers and chisels to clear away a bunch of that rock, the stuff on top, above the bone layer. We got rid of a ton of that this morning. And now the guys are down in the bone layer finding new bones. So we'll probably have some new ones being found during the stream. So stay tuned. Yeah. And let's see. Sounds like a workout. It definitely is, Wombat Hole. It definitely is. Holy cow. Yeah. It's nice, though. Some nice cardio. That's honestly my favorite kind of workout, is doing overburden. You know, knowing that every bit of rock that you remove, you're a little bit closer to finding more dinosaur bones. It's a good feeling. Yeah, and it's nice to get shredded out here in the field, exercising with a purpose. You know, not just for vanity's sake, not just for health's sake either, but you know, actually get some science done. It's a good feeling. Yeah. And Cactus Jack says, are you going to stream you digging this year? Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Right now, there's enough guys right there. There's not really space for me to be digging at the moment.
Ontogeny.
But when I'm done with this stream, I'll probably switch with somebody up there. And, yeah. I don't know how much actual digging I'm going to do on camera this month here in Wyoming. But next month in Utah, I'm going to be doing a bunch of digging on stream. So I'll kind of walk you through that and show you how it works. Yeah. Here on this crew this month, I'm kind of bouncing around to different sites and helping out where I can, helping train some of the new guys, and yeah, and doing outreach here. What's the biggest sauropod ever discovered so far? Prince New Nerder wants to know. It's a good question. Sauropods, for the uninitiated, those are the long-necked plant-eating dinosaurs. They're the largest animals to have ever walked our Earth. They, the very largest of them, depends on who you ask. There's a general consensus that the titanosaurs, this one particular group of sauropods, they were the biggest. But which individual genus or species of titanosaur was the biggest, we don't really know. There's, because we don't have a complete skeleton of any of them. They're incredibly difficult to dig up because they're so gigantic, and the odds of finding one that was complete in the first place is pretty much zero. Imagine the amount of sediment it would take to bury an animal the size of 15 elephants, you know? It would take a lot of sediment. So, like, these guys were not even preserved complete in the first place. But yeah, the very biggest of them are ones, I'll give you a few names: Argentinosaurus, Patagotitan, Dreadnoughtus, Bruhathkaiosaurus, although Bruhathkaiosaurus probably not in the running anymore. Alamosaurus, dinosaurs like that, titanosaurs like that got huge. We're talking like, 130 feet long, just nuts, enormous. So like well over 30 meters long, like 70 tons or more. Big animals, and they probably got bigger than that too. The odds that we found some of the biggest ones, as rare as these things can be, the odds that we just happened to have stumbled across the biggest one, no chance of that. They almost certainly would have gotten bigger too. Yeah. Let's see. An Australotitan is in the supersized club. Yeah, Australotitan's pretty big too. Absolutely. Yeah. Torque Time says, any advice for others that want to bring more science content to Twitch? Great question. Yeah. For any scientists out there, or anybody who knows a thing or two about science and you'd like to bring that to an audience here on Twitch, my advice would be just get started. It's never going to be perfect the first time around, so don't let perfection be the enemy of possibility, whatever you want to say. Just start doing it, Find out what you're interested in, like what people respond to, and just run with it. That's what I did back in 2020, and it's turned into this. So, yeah, my very first streams, I probably had like 5 viewers, and I was just looking at little bits of fossil bone under a microscope. And answering questions. And now here I am digging up new species of dinosaur out in Wyoming and Utah and streaming it live. So, yeah, my advice is find something that you know a lot about, that you're excited about, and then just start streaming it. Yeah. Let's see. Fiery Fate wants to know what caused their great size. Why were they so huge? Do we know? Well, sauropod dinosaurs in particular, well, dinosaurs in general were just pretty good at being large. Your average dinosaur is much larger than your average mammal. And we don't really know why yet, but we're starting to figure out that they were just very good at they had a lot of adaptations that were excellent for getting large, especially with sauropods. Sauropods in particular have this wonderful kind of suite of different characteristics that contribute to getting super, super big. Things like a bird-like respiratory system. So they're really, really good at getting oxygen to their cells all throughout their bodies. That also makes them more lightweight, with hollow vertebrae and air sacs and pneumaticity throughout their skeleton. It kept them more lightweight than you would imagine, which allowed them to get bigger and bigger. They didn't chew their food, so they would just ingest tons of plant material, just swallowing that stuff whole, basically. Just bite, swallow, bite, swallow. So they could feed very quickly compared to an animal that has to chew its food. So they could take in a great deal of food much more quickly and just kind of bulk up like that. We know they had extraordinarily fast growth rates. Some of these dinosaurs could reach adult size probably within like a couple of decades. And we're talking like, well over maybe 30 meters. So like 100 feet long. We know they grew really quickly. And they just had skeletons that were really well evolved for supporting that weight, moving around on land. There's a bunch of different things that go into that. If you type in !oxygen into chat, there's a command there. Little write-up that I put together. But that's, a lot of people in the general public assume like, oh, well, Earth must have had less gravity back then, or 10 times as much oxygen or something. No. It was the adaptability, the cool features that dinosaurs evolved that allowed them to get so big. That's what we understand. And Great Sag, also good at putting on massive amounts of biomass. Good for you. Honorary sauropod. And absolutely Fiery Faye. A lot of stuff went into, especially had sauropod dinosaurs getting really big. And what about a warmer climate that made food more available? That's part of it, Head of Broccoli, yeah. Earth's climate was warmer on average during the age of the dinosaurs. It fluctuated. But, and then having foods that were, different plants that were surprisingly nutritious. Things like horsetails, like genus Equisetum and similar plants like that. Surprisingly nutritious. Also stuff like ferns and club mosses, you can get more nutrition value out of that than you would expect. And that's part of what these guys were doing, we think. Did their ecosystems have to be relatively stable for a long time for growth over generations to occur? Enlightened Tide, that's a great question. I'm not really sure. I have heard people say in general that during the Mesozoic, during that period from, 250 million years ago to 66 million years ago, that Earth's climate was relatively more stable. But I think that might stem from just poor study. Kind of an assumption that not much was going around back then. It turns out that Earth's climate was changing a lot, and you do have big extinction events that happen throughout the Mesozoic, where big groups of animals just die out because of changes in Earth's climate. I don't know if it's environmental stability. I kind of doubt it, actually. I also think one thing about dinosaurs that allowed them to get so big in a lot of cases is that they were very mobile animals. So very active. Being larger means that you can cover more territory, you can move around, you can seek out new food sources. And so I think dinosaurs would have been a bit more mobile than a lot of animals that we have today, a lot of mammals. We do have evidence of massive migrations of dinosaurs that they would have done maybe every year in order to go to the nesting grounds or seek out new food, stuff like that. Does that make sense? And Jandy says, is there a way to tell how old dinosaurs could get? Absolutely, yeah. There's a few different ways, but there's only one that I really trust. You can look at things like whether bones in the skull or bones in the vertebrae are fused up. There's this idea that in dinosaurs, the more the bones are fused, the more mature the animal is, which broadly speaking, it seems to be true, but it turns out to be a lot more complicated than that when you really get into it. The way to actually tell how old a dinosaur was when it died is to cut the bones open and do what we call a histological sample. So you create a thin section of the bone, you count the rings, kind of like in a tree stump, to figure out how old a tree is. It's the same idea. Different animals will grow at different rates during different times of the year, whether food is scarce or plentiful or water. And so we get those rings, those annual rings in the bones, and if you count those, you can tell how old the animal was when it died. That's called histology, and it's very, very important. Particularly because a lot of dinosaurs changed a lot as they grew and matured. So during an individual dinosaur's lifetime, it would change tremendously. Sometimes it would look like a different species of dinosaur, and so there have been a lot of different dinosaur species and genera that have been named. It turns out they're just the same animal at different growth stages. It's the same kind of critter, just young or old. They look so different at different stages of their life. So that's why it's really important to be able to tell who is young and who is old, so that you can rule out ontogeny. You can rule out those changes during the animal's lifetime as a source of variation. Does that make sense? Yeah. But yeah. And interested in becoming a paleontologist, K722. After I finish college, which tips would you recommend while working? Oh, great question. Holy cow. We can go up and we'll probably ask Takuya about that too. Get a different perspective from him. My advice is get involved. If you can volunteer at a museum, if you can get yourself onto a dig like this, that is probably the best thing that you can do. Start hanging out with paleontologists, start working in the field, working in the lab. Just like almost anything like that, it's kind of who you know even more important than what you know. Making connections with people is really important, and gaining experience is really important. I know a lot of people who went to school and they got straight A's, went to college, took all the right classes and everything, and they didn't end up becoming paleontologists because they just didn't get involved. I'd say that's honestly much more important than taking the classes and getting the grades and everything. Especially if you want to do the work, then go out and do the work. Stuff like this is how you become a paleontologist. And I'm really proud of this because we've got a bunch of brand new people on our crew, people who have never been out digging dinosaurs before, and so we can be kind of almost an incubator for young paleontologists here. And that's pretty special, I think. And it's pretty neat. Not only are we digging up dinosaurs, collecting data, collecting specimens, driving the field forward like that, but we're also, helping train the next generation of paleontologists, and that's important stuff. Learn their culture and integrate. There you go, freelancer, yes. Oh, you're a hydrologist. Very cool, Johnny Shoes. Well, welcome. It's great to have you here. And is there one dinosaur you want to discover more than others? Who was asking that? That was Geeks Tour. Oh, yeah. I would love to find... Oh, shoot. If the sky's the limit, I'd love to find a sauropod here. That would really shake things up. It's not going to happen, but man, it would be cool to find a long-necked plant-eating dinosaur in these rocks. That would be most unexpected, and yeah, that would be headline news all over the place. Oh yeah. Apart from that, it'd be nice to find a tyrannosaur here. It'd be nice to find a leptoceratopsid or an ornithomimosaur. The cool thing about these particular rocks in the Almond Formation here, basically the end of the Campanian, Late Cretaceous, the Almond Formation is not well explored for dinosaurs. You know how many dinosaurs have been named from the Almond Formation? How many species or genera we know about from the Almond? 0. We don't have any. We know that there are dinosaurs here, but nobody's ever described any, nobody's ever named any. Almost anything that we find here stands a very good shot at being brand new genus or new species, and that's really exciting. So that's why we're so excited to work here, because this horned dinosaur is probably going to be new. Yeah. Be cool to find a dinocheirid like the one in Mexico. That would be awesome, Dr. Taro. Holy cow, would that be cool? Yeah. And we're not in the Green River Formation. No, this is the Almond Formation, Mr. Meat Suit. But we're near the town of Green River, if that makes sense. Not super close, but yeah. And yeah, I have seen some birds, SB. Not, some cool ones. Some ravens, some magpies, some rock wrens. We've got probably a sparrowhawk in camp. Hangs out near our tents. Yeah. Cool stuff. Yeah. Alright, thought I'd come back up here. Sorry to interrupt, guys. But Takuya, I thought I'd get your perspective on this too. We had somebody in the chat asking for advice on becoming a paleontologist. And so, yeah, my advice is going to be different from Takuya's advice, so I thought we'd get a second opinion here too. And yeah.
Well, if you're a high school student or middle school student, start looking for the information about different colleges programs throughout North America or anywhere in the world, and see if they offer a paleontology program. If not, get into geology program here in the United States, and keep, I guess, your interest in paleontology. Don't be shy to be nerdy.
Good advice.
That's a very important part.
You don't have to tell people that on Twitch.
Yeah. No, be nerdy.
Yeah.
And just stay curious, because what you need is inference, and the inference of how, say, horned dinosaur might have lived. We just don't have time machines, so we have to draw those biological inferences from looking at today's living organisms around us.
Yeah.
And so just have a broad interest. Botany is also very important because it's what fed big, Hadrosaurs and Ceratopsians during the Cretaceous. So, just don't stop within the kingdom Animalia. But yeah, just, and read a lot. Jurassic World is great, but to me that's entertainment.
Yeah.
So read a lot, and if you have access to actual papers, primary papers, or books written by paleontologists, just get it from the library or buy it, second hand, whatever.
Yeah.
And just stay curious, work hard. It's again, you have to be nerdy. I'll just repeat, and I'll shut up. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Takuya. I appreciate that. Yeah, great advice. Yeah, I would second everything that Takuya said there. Absolutely. Yeah. And Ken just showed up. Hey, Quinn wanted to say hi to you earlier, Ken.
Thank you.
Yeah. We miss you, Ken. We hope you come back soon.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Media.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going over here? I know I just checked in a few minutes ago.
Very good. I'm just
Yeah.
not really seeing much, but
Yeah.
just
That's
gonna
a tricky one. I have no
Yeah.
idea what that would be.
I know it's so broken up.
But it is a nice indicator that we've got more bone over here.
Yeah.
And you can see
Sorta
the
like
tilt of the
round.
bed, too. I'll try and hold the camera
That'd even be worth
more or less even.
like jacking.
That? I don't know.
It's so soft. Kind of thinking of just.
If you... Do we have a gypsona or anything?
Yeah, we do.
If we had... I know we don't really have foil on this crew, but I would have foiled that with Museum of the Rockies. Trench around it, foil it. It's not worth a gypsona or something, but you don't want to leave it. Do we have foil in camp?
Yeah, we do.
We do? That's what I would do. I know Ethan's not really... Shh, don't tell Ethan, everybody. But, yeah, I would foil it. Yeah.
It's kind of a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I don't even know how it stayed, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's because Quinn's just that good.
Yeah. That broom could have spelled disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, good luck with that. Yeah. Not ideal to have that in the way, but yeah. 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 I'm gonna get some more water over here before I forget. Yeah. And did we just get a raid? Hang on a second. 314 raiders from Cassia Babis. Yeah. How was your stream? I hope it was really good. Welcome to Paleontologizing. And welcome to wild and beautiful western Wyoming. We're here digging up what will probably be a new species of horned dinosaur here. We're going to be sending these fossils to the museum in Cincinnati. So any Ohioans in the chat? You'll be able to see this on display maybe someday. But for right now, we're digging it up. And I'm glad you're here. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. And I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. Talking about fossils, digging up fossils, answering your questions, trying to show you how paleontology actually works. So I'm glad you're here. Let me know if you got any questions. And you live in Cincy, Bussin' Bacon Boy. Well. Have you been to the museum in Cincinnati? There are some incredible fossils on display there. You should totally go. And these fossils are going to end up there, so you're lucky. You live in Cincy. I've heard it's a cool town. I've heard you've got some interesting chili there, too. Spent a week in Ohio one night. Geeks Tour, I'd love to hear that story sometime. And Cassie Babbitt says, thank you, it was great. Greetings from Poland. Well. I wish I know how to say welcome in Polish. So pretend that I'm saying welcome in Polish. It's great to have you here. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate you. Fantastic. Yeah. I was going to drink some water and put some chapstick on. Let me do that. And Murph, thank you for gifting Cassie. I appreciate that, Murph. One of our most stalwart supporters here, Murph. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you. It's not pierogi, make away. That's not right. Dzień dobry? Dzień dobry? Is that how you say it, Thoters? Anyway, I'm not gonna repeat anything that somebody says because I don't know what it is in Polish, and I don't want to. We got a PG-rated channel here, whether it's English or Polish. So, yeah. Yeah. Dzień dobry. Dzień dobry, Raiders. Dzień dobry to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Good stuff. Cassie, do you run in any of the same circles as Generator Frajdi? Because we've been raided by them many times, and they've been wonderful. And, yeah. Shoot, we need to do some... When I get back to the office, we'll do some more, historical streams talking about some more Polish paleontologists, like Halska Smolska, or Zofia Kielin-Jaworowska. Yeah. Well, check out the YouTube page if you want to see that one. We actually did a birthday stream for Zofia Kielin-Jaworowska, famous Polish paleontologist. She led the Polish-Mongolian expeditions back in the 1960s. Really important stuff. Discovered Dinochirus and Gallimimus. You know Gallimimus, the ostrich-like dinosaur from Jurassic Park? You know Gallimimus, right? Yeah. They're flocking this way. Gallimimus. Zofia Kielin-Jaworowska discovered that in Mongolia. So, really well-known Polish paleontologist. And which museum in Cincy did you say? The Natural History Museum? The one that's in the old train station. Train station / bus depot? The big one. I think it's called the Cincinnati Museum Center. That's the one. The one with the dinosaurs. Check it out. It's awesome. I was actually supposed to be there in October because we had the big global paleontology conference there in Cincy this past year. The Society of Vertebrate Paleontology Conference. Happens once a year. You have vertebrate paleontologists who study critters with bones. That includes dinosaurs, like I study. The big global meeting moves around from place to place every year. This past year it was in Cincinnati. And unfortunately, it was on the same exact weekend as TwitchCon. And I was already supposed to speak at TwitchCon, and they'd already comped my ticket and everything. And it was easier to drive there from California. It was in Vegas. So I went to that instead. Anyway, so I missed going to the museum in Cincinnati, but you can go, and you really should if you're nearby. Check it out. Union Terminal. Yes, the museum center. There you go. Yeah. So Takuya here works at the museum in Cincinnati, and maybe you'll get to see him. Yeah. Let's see. Did you get Twitch flu? I did not. Imagination 2 form. I did not. Never had Twitch flu. I was pretty careful. I actually wore a mask in certain social situations, so I wouldn't get the Twitch plague. Let me get some water down here, and then I'll kind of walk you through what sort of animal we're digging up here too. Take out some visual aids so I can show and not just tell. I bet the Society for Invertebrate Paleontologists is much smaller, says Axeman. I don't know. They don't have like one single society like that. I think there's a number of different groups with smaller conferences. But I should ask the next time I'm, yeah, they might also just do a lot of stuff at GSA, the Geological Society of America. There's geologists, various other geoscientists, paleontologists. I think there's a lot of invert stuff at GSA every year. Yeah. I've only ever been to regional GSA when it was in Bozeman when I lived there. And it was cool, but there wasn't a lot of vertebrate stuff, you know. SVP kind of handles that. All right, how are we doing battery-wise? 95%. Not too shabby. Here is how we're broadcasting right now from the wilds of western Wyoming, middle of nowhere. We've got our satellite dish, our router, solar panel, and solar battery. All self-contained here, off the grid, and thankfully not too heavy to carry up here. Yeah, it does take some work. It's tiring, but man, is it worth it. So glad you could be here to watch, everybody. Yeah. But yeah. And Macbeth 221, or Macbeth 21, oh, sorry, the Scottish play 21, says, "You do such interesting stuff. I'm from the raid, but I'm staying for sure. My inner primary school kid is happy." Well, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. I know a lot of kids dreamed of becoming paleontologists, and it doesn't always work out that way, you know. Not everybody's crazy enough to actually pursue this. So I'm glad you can live vicariously through this stream a little bit. And let me know if you've got any questions. It's wonderful to have you here. Yeah, let's talk a bit about this animal. And so this is a horned dinosaur. What we call a ceratopsian. And ceratopsians are... here's a skeletal diagram of a ceratopsian of... this is Pentaceratops right here. So that's what we're digging up there. And so far we've got parts of the skull. We've got parts of the squamosal, which is this big bone right here. So we think we've got the lower part there and maybe part of the upper part now. We've got some other frill bones up there, which could be squamosal up here. Kind of the juncture between the squamosal and the parietal. Or we're not really sure yet. We're still figuring it out because we're still digging it up. But yeah, ceratopsians like this were a really important part of this ecosystem. Some of the more charismatic dinosaurs that lived in this environment too. Ours might look something like this, but probably looks significantly different. Because when we're talking about ceratopsians, there are so many different kinds with different head ornamentation. Different horns, different frill shapes, different epiparietals and episquamosals, these like little spiky Dorito-shaped things around the perimeter of their frill. Yeah, many different kinds, and we're still finding new ones every year. This one that we're digging up is probably going to be new because it's from a different time and a different place from all the rest of these. They evolve really quickly. And so if you go to a different time and a different place, you're going to have different ceratopsians in the late Cretaceous. And so that's what we're expecting to see here. Yeah. But yeah, I love them. They're so cool. They are really cool, Lunia Rose. They really are. Entropic Universe, hello to you. I'm glad you could be here. But yeah, one of my favorite dinosaurs. Aren't they cool, Orange Boy? Ceratopsians are really neat. Really, really neat animals. Yeah. And again, we're finding new ones every year. Later on in the summer, in July, I'm going to be working with Don DeBlue from the Utah Geological Survey. He's the assistant state paleontologist for the state of Utah. And he discovered this one right here, Diabloceratops. That's one of his babies, right there. He actually has a cast of the skull, like a molded and cast replica of the skull in his house above the fireplace. It's pretty cool. His wife got it for him, I think, as an anniversary present. So he gets to see that every day and be proud that he discovered that dinosaur. He brought that to light, you know? It's pretty neat. Diabloceratops. But yeah, did they ever lose their horns when they would battle? We have found Triceratops specimens with broken horns that seem to be broken and healed. So yeah. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like the horns actually evolved for fighting. They did probably fight with them, but it's not like they're solely for combat. It seems like the horns, you can use them for combat, but they mostly evolved as a means of display, showing off. Kind of like the feathers on a peacock or something like that. Given that these guys, it's not like they found a really, really good, so to speak, design for combat and they stuck with it. Like, no, they're always tinkering with this. They're always evolving new shapes and sizes of horns and, you know, stuff like that. So it seems like, you know, it's almost like fashion trends or something like that. You know, what looks cool this, you know, million years, it's always changing. So it's not really for combat, it's almost more, I'm not going to say frivolous, but, you know, it's for looks, primarily. For showing off to each other and probably social hierarchy kind of stuff. Probably has a lot to do with ontogeny, being able to tell who is young and who is old. These would have been very social animals, we think, living in groups and interacting with each other all the time. So, yeah, having like different shapes to your horns and frills and stuff helps you recognize different individuals and determine who should be, you know, top dog, so to speak. Whatever, you know? It's a social thing. Kind of like fashion, I guess. Yeah. And how far does this dig? How long of a hike from the road? How far is the drive to this area? I can't really give you that information because we do not want poachers out here. But I'll tell you that we are somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, kind of near the town of Green River, Wyoming. Yeah. But that's all I can really tell you. Sorry. We don't want any unexpected visitors coming here trying to steal these bones or anything. Because that sort of thing will happen if we're not cagey about where we're at. Yeah. Science Stream says it's wild to me that there are thieves and bandits. What do you mean, Science Streams? It's called the banking industry. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, we do get people who come out here and try and loot sites. It happens all the time in Utah. They just had a major sting operation last year where, yeah, there were like hundreds of tons of dinosaur fossils that were seized. I think it was hundreds of tons. People just going out and, you know, stealing these things from public land. It happens. It happens. Yeah. You're welcome, Blitz. Yeah. And scorpions has ended. Yeah, we had a scorpion in the quarry this morning. Big one. Big yellow scorpion. She was probably about that big. So pretty big for up here. The further north you go, it seems the smaller the scorpions get. But, yeah, it's always cool to see one of them. They really like to hang out in the quarry after we've moved a bunch of rock and created new cracks for them to hide in and stuff. They really like kind of disturbed ground. So oftentimes we'll open up the site in the morning, you know, reopen it from the previous day, and there's, you know, scorpions there hanging out. It's cool to see them. They're neat critters. I've never been stung by one. No. And Lauren says, what does hundreds of tons translate to? So, thousands and thousands of dinosaur fossils. A ton is 1,000 kilograms, so about 2,200 pounds. Yeah. Does that make sense? And 14 readers from Rogan27. Hello, Rogan27. Wow, Joe Rogan himself. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. We're out here digging up dinosaurs in western Wyoming, and it's great to have you here. Let me know if you got any questions. Yeah. Pretty cool. And Van Bloot says, I know this is a little off topic, but can I ask what kind of watch that is you're wearing? This is going to sound like a joke, but it's not. It's a fossil watch. Yeah. I've had this for a long time. My grandpa got this for me for, I think, my 18th birthday. And I really like it because it's got that cage over the top. I've had other watches that I've used in the field, and the crystals have gotten smashed. Like the glass face, just gets cracked or smashed. Because it's, stuff's rough out here. Digging in the ground, swinging picks and shovels, and a lot can happen. So I started wearing this watch in the field, and hasn't broken yet. And then I just started wearing it in everyday life too, not just in the field. So this is just my everyday watch. And thank you again to Kennedy for sending me a new watch band for it. Because my old one was falling apart. Yeah. But yeah. And watched Outer Range. Never heard of that Imagination 2 form. No. And are there Ankylosaurus fossils around the same area where you are? Not really. Ankylosaurus in particular, like that particular genus of dinosaur, is from later in the Cretaceous. So like Hell Creek Formation or Lance Formation. Up in Wyoming, Montana. Well, we're in Wyoming right now, but yeah. The Dakotas and maybe Saskatchewan and Alberta. But there are ankylosaurs that are here, other members of that group. Here, I'll show you. So we're digging in rocks that are about 73 million years old, and Ankylosaurus itself is from the very end of the age of dinosaurs, about 66 million years ago. So we definitely don't expect to find Ankylosaurus here, but we very well could find its ancestor or other close relatives from earlier in time. Where's my dinosaur phylogeny? Here we go. Yeah. So Ankylosaurs. That actually is Ankylosaurus right there. We would expect to find other members of that family here, but not Ankylosaurus proper, Maybe an earlier relative. Yeah. Now let's see here. How many dinosaurs in DC? There actually is a dinosaur, no kidding. There's been a dinosaur described from the District of Columbia, Capitalsaurus. It's dubious. It's like based on I think 2 bones, which might not even go together. If I'm remembering correctly, there's a claw and maybe a vertebra. Capitalsaurus. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's what we call a nomen dubium. So a dinosaur that was named based on material that's way too scrappy to say that it's actually different from other dinosaurs. It's just based on fragments. So, yeah. And the final L says, are the fossils all bunched up in a few spots thanks to geology, or are they scattered wherever evenly? They are bunched up in places, yeah. So I'll kind of show you up here in the quarry. Let me show you some of the layering. So this area here represents kind of an ancient floodplain near the coast. Right now, we are about 7,000 feet in the air, like 7,000 feet above sea level. So that's what, like 2,200 meters, something like that? We're high up. This is a high altitude, high desert here. Didn't used to be that way during the Cretaceous. This area was at sea level, and the ocean was actually right over there. Maybe I'll show you a diagram in a minute. But yeah, so this would have been kind of a floodplain, swampy. Would have been like meadows and forests and like river deltas and stuff like that through here. And this guy, we've got lived and died in this environment, this ceratopsian dinosaur, this horned dinosaur. And it's right here in this kind of like shaly layer here.
Got more bone.
Oh, more bone? Nice.
Bone. Flipped it up like this.
Very nice, Colin.
Just popped up this bright red with striations. Threw some glue on it to fix it.
Can you hold it up a little closer to the camera, maybe? Absolutely. Nice, yeah. It's all shiny because we got glue on it. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My very first dinosaur bone.
Very first dinosaur bone. Holy cow, live on Twitch.
Live on Twitch.
Awesome, Colin.
We get
Awesome.
W's in the chat.
Yeah.
Can we get some W's in the chat, please? We stay winning. It's the streamer luck.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so we had a question in chat about like the layering here, and like, do we find fossils evenly distributed due to the geology, or are they kind of bunched up? And the answer is kind of both. I mean, they do tend to be bunched up. You have got different, the preservation would change. You have got like, changes in the deposition here. And
You want to see an example of bunched up?
yeah.
Well, here, I guess, if you remember the first stream,
Uh-huh.
they were kind of in the same layer, but then Quinn found the ribs also in the same layer, but then bunched up here is that there's more bone at the top of the surface.
Nice.
I have this glued because there's bone underneath it, but there's also bone right here, so it's kind of whatever happened here, scrunched it up in this layer. So I'm working on
Nice.
getting around it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I guess there's a few different ways we could answer that question. The bones do get like scattered and concentrated in different areas and stuff in the bone bed itself, like in the bone layer. Not bone bed. Bone bed is where you've got multiple individuals. Bone layer is the term I was looking for there. But I think another way to answer that question is like where you actually get bone in certain areas and you don't get it in other areas. So like in different layers, bones might be more common in a certain depositional environment. Like here we've got this nice gray shaly kind of rock, and this is where we've been finding all the bone around here in, at this particular site. You move up into that more blocky, kind of yellowy sandstone. Takuya, do you think that's like a channel sand up there?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely different depositional energy.
Mhm. This probably would have been maybe a more swampy kind of.
Yeah, quieter.
Yeah, less energy in that setting. Just kind of still water, maybe kind of fetid water, kind of like a swamp.
Lake, maybe.
Oxbow Lake, yeah. And yeah, Oxbow Lakes are great places to preserve dinosaurs, ceratopsians in particular. I found a lot of them in what seem to be ancient Oxbow Lakes. Yeah.
So that would mean that it was closer to the coast.
Yeah.
It was flat plain,
Mhm.
meandering river.
Yeah.
And, Oxbow. So we are not talking about mountainous environment
Mhm.
Here, at least, but where these dinosaurs might have been living.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Yeah, thanks. I hope that answers your question, Chef. Yeah, let's see. And Lindelius, it's one of the most common questions I get. I got to come up with some commands to help out with this. But how do we know where to dig? Well, there's a lot that goes into that. Yeah, say that. Here, let me walk you through it, I guess. Say that you want to find a particular kind of dinosaur. Let's say you want to find T-Rex. Everybody loves T-Rex, right? Tyrannosaurus lived on Earth at a particular time and in a particular place. So in the Late Cretaceous period, at the end of the age of dinosaurs, the Maastrichtian stage, here in North America. And so if you want to find T-Rex, you got to find rocks of the right type and the right age, and you have to find those rocks on the surface. So you use your geological maps and you figure out where that age of rock, where Maastrichtian rocks are exposed on the surface, like where in North America you can find them. And you might say, oh, wow, well, we've got parts of Wyoming, parts of Montana, parts of Saskatchewan, parts of North and South Dakota. And then you can kind of narrow it down from there. Like, which area do I want to go to? You look at Google Earth and you look at satellite photos and you figure out, where is the rock actually exposed on the surface? You know the underlying bedrock of all these areas. You know where the bedrock is of the right age, but where is that bedrock exposed to the surface like it is here in Wyoming? Where you've got, it's not underneath a parking lot. It's not underneath a Walmart. It's not underneath a highway or a forest or a prairie or a grassland. It's just beautiful, bare rock right there on the surface. And then you figure out your land ownership. So if you're going to work on public land, you got to figure out where that is. You got to get your permits together. If you're working on private land, you have to get permission from the landowner to dig there. And then once you're there, boots on the ground, once you've completed all those steps, you do what we call prospecting. So that means you use the old Mark I eyeball here. You walk along the ground and you look for little bits of bone on the surface. Because these are areas where you've got exposed rock, there's a lot of erosion. There's always new things weathering out because of wind and rain and snow. And so you look for bits of bone that have come out of the rock that tell you that there's a dinosaur underneath. So hopefully you can pick up a little bit of something and go, well, this is just a rock here, but pretend this is a piece of bone. You go, well, this must have rolled down from up there. You find other pieces of bone. You try and follow it up to the source, and then hopefully you get a skeleton. That's kind of how this works, It's a little overly simplified, but that's the short version for you. I hope that makes sense. Here, let me get dust on here. There we go. Is it true that the current consensus is that dinosaurs had feathers? Asks Solist. Yeah, a lot of dinosaurs had feathers. And all the dinosaurs we have today, still alive, have feathers. We call them birds. Birds evolved from dinosaurs. And so we know that all the dinosaurs that were closely related to birds, many of the theropod dinosaurs we know had feathers. Basically all of the Maniraptorans, the people sometimes call raptor dinosaurs and their relatives, they all had feathers. But it might be that feathers evolved even earlier on within Dinosauria. It could be that the very first dinosaurs already had feathers, and that any dinosaurs later on that didn't have feathers, it's because they specifically lost them. Like, that was an evolutionary change that occurred where the ancestral state to have feathers, that changed. So, they lost their feathers over time. It does seem like that's kind of the direction that we're moving in, where it could very well be that dinosaurs ancestrally had feathers. The ancestor of the dinosaurs already had very simple hair-like feathers, kind of like on a kiwi bird, if you know what that is. Hair-like filamentous feathers. But yeah. And Twisted MBZ, thank you so much for the gift subs. I really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting our work out here. Thank you for making it possible for me to stream and take you along as we're doing this field work. Really appreciate it. And those 5 viewers who just got gift subs, they won't have to worry about any ads for as long as I'm out here in Wyoming, so thank you. Appreciate that, Twisted. Did T-Rex have any feathers? I think so, Bowman, yeah. Maybe not when it was full grown, but we know that some members of the Tyrannosaur family had feathers. We don't know for certain whether T-Rex did, Tyrannosaurus Rex, but we know that Eutyrannus did, from China. It could very well be that very young T-Rex, like hatchlings up to small juveniles, that they had feathers to help keep them warm, maybe help keep them camouflaged, I don't know. But the bigger an animal gets, generally the less warm it needs to be. Like, big animals, the problem for them is not staying warm. The problem is, expelling heat. By virtue of being so big, they generate a lot of body heat, and they need to get rid of it. So having feathers on, an adult T-Rex might not have been advantageous. So maybe they lost those feathers throughout their lifetime. Kind of like elephants, where, baby Asian elephants, they got some hair on them. It's thin and it's kind of subtle, but they tend to lose that by the time that they're adults. Maybe T-Rex was the same way with feathers. We don't really know yet. The way to test that idea science is all about testing hypotheses, is we'd go out and we'd try to find skin samples of T-Rex, try to find preserved fossil skin. And there have been a few patches of fossil skin that don't show feathers for an adult T-Rex, or what seems to be an adult T-Rex. So we know they didn't have feathers everywhere. We know that they at least had some patches of scaly skin, but the samples we have are pretty small. So we don't know the whole body yet, and yeah, maybe someday somebody will find an exquisitely preserved baby T-Rex with skin and feathers on it, and then we would know, but we don't know that yet. Yeah, good question. Thanks for asking it. Yeah, and there you go, Gary and Kels. Yeah. I like the idea of a full-grown T-Rex that looks like a little yellow duck. I mean, it'd be a little yellow duck that could bite you in half. So it would be funny, but it would also be scary. Yeah. Love that question from Geek Store. MLF, thank you for reposting it. What's the biggest misconception about what you do? I think the biggest misconception about what paleontologists do, especially here in the field, is that we are well funded. It's that we get paid to be out here, or that we have the budget for fancy high-tech gear for finding fossils and stuff like that. We don't. This expedition right now is partially funded through Twitch chat, so thank you everybody for your contributions. Last year, you funded pretty much the whole expedition, which was incredible. Yeah. You guys provided so much gear for us through the Amazon wish list, and we would not be as comfortable out here as we are without your support, so thank you. You're really making our lives easier and making it easier for us to do our work and dig up more dinosaurs. So it can be pretty you know, it could be tough work. You know, this is not an easy environment to work in. We're at really high elevation. It's very dry out here. We do not have electricity or running water. We only have internet because I brought it with a satellite dish. Thank you, chat, for helping me afford that in the first place. Yeah, it's very much not luxurious, and finding the fossils themselves doesn't look like it does in the movies. I guess I would say the biggest misconception is that this is somehow easy or glamorous. I mean, I think it's glamorous because anytime you're finding dinosaurs, that's pretty darn cool. But it's not, you know, it doesn't look like it does in the movies. And, yeah, I'd say that's the biggest misconception. Yeah. Hope your paleo pick is helping well. It definitely is, Mr. Ben. Yeah, thank you again. And Ghosty Lane, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Welcome to the community. Imagine Hollywood lying to us. I know, right, Frozen Yak? Impossible. Ridiculous. Here, I gotta check on my... let's see... Where is that? Gotta check on my battery here and make sure we're doing okay. I'll pull that up. We're at 62%. Okay, we'll keep it there for a while. Nice. Yeah. Kerchunky ground sonar? No, Simplex Pachinko. We definitely don't have anything like that. A, it doesn't work, and B, even if it did, we wouldn't be able to afford that. Yeah. The fossil bones themselves are pretty much the same consistency as the surrounding rock. They're like generally the same kind of density. And there's so many other bits of rock and crud in there too that even if you could get a nice, like, you know, ground sonar image, even if that were possible, interpreting it would be, yeah, just wouldn't work. Yeah. Oh, Sabina Bean, Solvo Trade. Thank you, Charlie's Dragon, for reposting that. When you find an animal with strange appendages that aren't a thing in today's animals, Stegosaurus's plates, Spinosaurus's sail, how do you come up with ideas about what their use might have been? That is right up my alley. That's the sort of dinosaur paleontology that I do. the idea is like you can look at modern animals that might have something vaguely similar and then see what they're using it for. See how it works for them. And yeah. It's called comparative anatomy. And the funny thing is, oftentimes with modern animals, we don't even have a great idea of what they're using it for. So, take for instance, let me think of an example. Think about the casque on top of a cassowary's head, that like bony crest on a cassowary bird. Can we have some cassowary emotes going in the chat? There's still debate about what that's used for in modern animals, like in cassowaries. There are dinosaurs that had similar crests like that. So sometimes you've got to go back and actually study the modern animal to figure it out before you can use that as a clue for what the dinosaurs were doing. Does that make sense? So with the cassowary, there's an old idea that, it uses it as a helmet. When it's running through the forest, it's like a football helmet, to punch through the trees and stuff. I don't know if I really buy that much. It does grow only after the animal is like fully grown. Does it really start to grow? The casque on its head, the bony crest, and so it seems to be an indicator of maturity, we think. Although it might also have something to do with thermoregulation. It might help the animal cool off its brain because the crest is actually hollow. There's air that goes through it, and it might have something to do with vocalization as well. So yeah, it's tricky when we're trying to figure out these weird things that different dinosaurs had. You got to use modern animals as a comparison, but sometimes the modern animals haven't even been worked on. Sometimes the modern animals are still a mystery. So you might have to figure that out first. And that's kind of part of what I do. I've got some papers coming up pretty soon about that I'll be publishing within the next couple years. So, yeah, sorry about the wind. This is Wyoming. This is what it's like. I'm trying to hold the camera steady when it's blowing all over the place, so hopefully I'm doing an okay job at that. Yeah. And let's see. Your brain is hollow to cool the rest of your head? Really, Joshua Colossus? Well, awesome. I'm glad you're here. I can fill your head up with some paleontology here. It's great to have you. Yeah. Yeah. Cassowaries look like dinosaurs? Kilfaxi? They are dinosaurs. Yeah. So birds, all birds, including cassowaries, including chickens, sparrows, pigeons, ostriches, penguins, they're all dinosaurs. Birds are living dinosaurs. We've known this for certain for about 20 years at this point. There were a lot of paleontologists who would look at dinosaurs and go like, hey, especially these theropod dinosaurs, they look awful bird-like in their skeletons, but they don't have things like feathers and stuff like that, so they can't be related to birds. It must just be a coincidence. Convergent evolution. And then in the 90s, we really started finding fossil feathers on dinosaurs, and that was the kicker. That was what clinched it. Yeah, like case closed. Shoot, birds evolved from dinosaurs. There's way too many similarities between them for it to just be a coincidence. So, yeah. Yeah. And Raider for LifeX says, will reptiles reign on Earth if global warming continues? We were actually talking about that a few minutes, maybe an hour ago, me and Takuya, where, yeah, it's interesting, like, the competition between sauropsids and synapsids, between reptiles and mammals, respectively. Because before the dinosaurs, during, like, the late Paleozoic, synapsids kind of ruled the Earth. They were the dominant land animals, the ancestors of mammals, things like Gorgonopsians, or things like Dimetrodon. They were the ancestors of mammals, and they were top dogs. And then, at the end of the Permian, there's a mass extinction event, and many of them get wiped out, and the reptiles take over, the diapsid reptiles, including dinosaurs. And then in the oceans, you have plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs, mosasaurs, etc. So yeah, it's really like the age of the diapsids, the age of the diapsid, sauropsid reptiles. And then there's another extinction event, and then the mammals take over after that. So it's kind of this back and forth. It's, these... guess you could call them like dynasties, rising and falling. If anybody here has not yet seen Life on Our Planet on Netflix, I would highly recommend it. Narrated by Morgan Freeman. It's good stuff. Some of their dinosaur models aren't the best, but you know, it's people get too picky about these things sometimes. I think it's the overall product that's important, and like telling the story of the history of life on Earth it's not something that's been done enough. So if you have Netflix, check it out. It's good. But it kind of that's a major theme in that, is this idea of dynasties, reptiles and mammals. You know, speaking of reptiles, we got a lizard right here, right there, the right corner of that bush. See if we can get a little closer. You see him? There he goes. Right there. Hey, little lizardy guy. Doing some push-ups. Yeah, getting swole. It's okay. I'm not gonna eat you. Just wanna stream you. Beautiful. A pretty one. Probably a spiny lizard. Like a fence lizard. Kind of critter. Where'd you go? Where'd you go, little lizard? Can I catch him? Oh, there he is. He's too fast. He's too fast. Yeah. So yeah, even in a climate like this, Wyoming is kind of a frozen wasteland for about half the year. Yeah, so these lizards tend to be pretty small, but they do really well during the summer. Imagine if it were, imagine for a second that human beings were releasing all these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere in order to warm the climate. And summers got hotter and winters also got warmer too in most places. Well, critters like lizards probably do a bit better. And being, ectothermic, getting their heat from the sun, you warm the climate, and reptiles, they like that. They get bigger, generally, the warmer things are. You know, we had snakes that were like 50 feet long during the end of the Paleocene, beginning of the Eocene, at the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, not too long after the extinction of the dinosaurs. You had enormous crocodiles that were 30 feet long. You had snakes that were as big around as a truck tire. And that seems to be a climate thing. So maybe we'll see that again, If we, as human beings, manage to wipe ourselves out through runaway global warming, maybe we'll see it take over. We won't see a takeover of the reptiles, but maybe it'll occur again. Maybe the sauropsids will once again outcompete the synapsids. The reptiles will reclaim the throne from the mammals. It could happen. But yeah. You mean when we manage? Don't say that, Bizarre. We're trying to be optimistic here. Yeah. But yeah. So if the climate heats up, the cold-blooded physiology may increase. Yeah. Animals that are quote-unquote cold-blooded, ectothermic, they get their body heat from outside, from an external source like the sun, rather than getting their internal body heat, internally generated, like we as mammals do, or like birds do, or like most dinosaurs did. Animals that are cold-blooded, they tend to do better in warmer climates, That's why you have alligators down in Florida. You don't really have alligators up in, say, Minnesota, or Alaska, or any part of Canada. Not a lot of gators up there, outside of a zoo. Because it's too cold. Anywho. And Egomantis didn't, more oxygen. There wasn't actually, as far as I know, it's been a while since I've checked up on the literature about this, but as of a few years ago, the general consensus was that oxygen levels were not higher during the age of the dinosaurs. They were probably lower than today, actually. And there was more carbon in the atmosphere, hence warmer climate. So it wasn't increased. Dinosaurs did not increase in body size because there was more oxygen. there wasn't more oxygen back then, for the most part. I mean, oxygen levels fluctuated during the Mesozoic. Dinosaurs were around for 180 million years. So you had a lot of fluctuations in climate and temperature and different atmospheric composition and stuff like that. But yeah, it was not some sort of a simple answer like, oh, more oxygen is why dinosaurs got big. No. Long before the dinosaurs, oxygen levels were much, much higher. You had gigantic arthropods walking around. You had, millipede-like animals the size of a car. You had dragonflies bigger than a seagull. But that was long before the dinosaurs, during the Carboniferous period. Yeah. But yeah. Maybe I should begin using the word aves when referring to birds. You could, Gary Ankelis, yeah. There's a thing among dinosaur paleontologists, or people who talk about dinosaurs, people who know what they're talking about when they talk about dinosaurs. We sometimes force ourselves to say non-avian dinosaurs, because birds are dinosaurs. They evolved from dinosaurs, hence they are dinosaurs. And so, when we say, oh, the extinction of the dinosaurs, well, dinosaurs didn't go completely extinct. There were a few species of bird that managed to survive, and they've diversified today into the over 9,000 species of living birds. So dinosaurs are still all around us. We just call them birds. So oftentimes we try and say non-avian dinosaur for the, the big cool dinosaurs that lived during the Mesozoic. Not that birds aren't cool, but you know what I mean. See how we got to be careful about language like this? It's tricky. But yeah, as scientists we try to be precise with how we say things so that we don't confuse people or mislead them or, yeah. Anywho, we're digging up some non-avian dinosaurs here. Anybody who's just waltzed in, welcome. And thank you, Kino Zoikum, for the Prime sub. I really appreciate that. Welcome to Paleontologizing. I'll do a little station break here and I'll get myself some water. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Welcome to Western Wyoming. We're digging up what'll probably be a new species or new genus of horned dinosaur up there. Crew's taking a little bit of a break, as we need to do. Gotta take care of ourselves up here. But yeah, my name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. Any questions you've got about dinosaurs, about paleontology, about the history of life on Earth, or about science in general, I'll do my best to answer those questions for you. It's great to have you here. Let me drink some water. This altitude and the dry air and the constant talking really dries me out. I hear a bird up there. Sounds like a rock wren. Cool. An avian dinosaur. Neat. Yeah. And let's see here. Lokmax says, how come dinosaurs were more prominent in North America territory compared to Europe? They weren't. No. Dinosaurs lived all over our Earth. Even in places like Antarctica. The thing is, it's easier to find dinosaur fossils in places like this than it is in places like, say Europe, that's mostly covered by like forests and towns and cities and Tesco's and stuff like that. In order to be able to find a lot of fossils, in different areas, you need like wide open desert country like this with lots of exposed rock. Europe's got a lot going for it, but doesn't really have a lot of deserts, There's some beautiful like desert terrain in places like Spain and Portugal, and you find a lot of dinosaurs there. But you're not going to find a lot of dinosaurs, say, in London, outside of the Natural History Museum at least. Or in the the forests of Austria or anything like that, you know? Yeah. This is the sort of territory that's best for looking for dinosaurs. Yeah, and would satellites one day help? We've already got satellites that do excellent ground imaging. The thing is, that's very, very different from, like, finding fossils. It's very different from prospecting for fossils. Because, like, you know, even if you had a satellite where, you know, you could see what time it is on my watch from space, you wouldn't be able to really discover dinosaurs there, because when we're prospecting, you gotta, like, pick these things up. You know, pick this up and go, is this a bone? Is it not? That kind of thing. And then you have to be able to follow that up, and you have to be able to dig, and then, you know, even after we dig these dinosaurs up, sometimes we don't even know what they are until we can actually clean them off in the laboratory. Like, it's a complicated stuff, and it takes a lot of work. It's very, very hands-on. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Matt M33 says no. It doesn't make sense? I'm sorry. No. And Torafu says, is there any current technologies that can help see bones? Where was this? Through forests and cities and such? No. No. And we'd have to dig them up in the first place in order to be able to study them. So, yeah. I know. Especially on a platform like Twitch, everybody wants a technological solution to a labor problem. We need people, boots on the ground, looking for fossils in order to be able to find them. Technology is not really something that, you know, with a magic snap of the fingers can solve these things. You know, it takes hard work. Technology can help in certain ways. There are bits of modern technology that certainly make our lives easier in the field. Stuff like GPS, being able to precisely log where our sites are. Communication-wise, having things like cell phones or satellite phones or satellite internet can help with communication. Handheld radios can help too. The internal combustion engine gets us out here when we have vehicles that we can use on roads and stuff. But in large part, the way that we as paleontologists do our work in the field hasn't changed much since, since the 1870s, 1880s. We're still using a lot of the same methods. Still picks and shovels and, chisels and hammers. Still boots and khaki shirts. Yeah. I know crews that still use horses in order to be able to pack out fossils from certain sites. Yeah, and we still use burlap and plaster to create our protective jackets to bring fossils from the field back to the laboratory safely without them crumbling. You'll see a lot more of that this summer when we get into some jacketing. That's a method that was derived. That was established back in the 1870s, I think, on Othniel Charles Marsh's cruise out in the old Wild West. We still use that not because we're slaves to tradition. We use that because that's the best way to do it. Sometimes you just can't improve on really basic stuff like that. As much as technologists would like you to believe that technology can solve everything, they want to sell you something, Be suspicious. Any jacketing yet? Only some very small jackets at some other sites. None here yet, I don't think. But we'll get into that. Maybe tomorrow we'll be doing some jacketing. Bring some plaster up to the site, some water, and some burlap. But yeah, some problems aren't solvable with tech. Agreed, Gojira. Yeah. Claire Burr, thank you for posting that from MLF. Can you list all the digs going on right now and their primary fossils? Sure. Right here at, this is called Nick's Ceratopsian site, because Nick Longrich found it last summer. Different Nick from our current Nick, but our current Nick is also involved with the Ceratopsian. Anyway, this is a horned dinosaur here. We've got Turtle Hill, which is kind of just over the ridge over there. we might get a visit from some of those crew members. And at Turtle Hill, they've got turtle bits. They've got a lot of beautiful plants, gorgeous fossil leaves. I'm excited to show you that during a future stream. They've got some really nice fish pieces too. Big skull bones of a bowfin fish. Much bigger than modern bowfin. This sucker was like 8 or 9 feet long. Genus Melvius, we think it probably is. Apparently yesterday they got a tooth that was like that. Big fang-like tooth. Exciting stuff. So that's at Turtle Hill. And then we've got the Lexington Hadrosaur site. That's the one I showed you the day before yesterday with the fossil skin from a duck-billed dinosaur. It's over there. And then we've got the Dell Hadrosaur site as well. That's the one with Barnum Brown's bucket. That's where I was yesterday. So 4 sites running concurrently right now. We'll probably do some prospecting and find some other sites, but we got to focus on getting these things out of the ground first, because time is of the essence. I know we've got the entire month of June, but that's going to fly by. So got to make sure that we're working fast and getting stuff done. Yeah. And you want to see fossil plants? Me too, Ghostly Lena. I'm excited to show you those. They are gorgeous, beautiful leaves. Even though they're 73 million years old, they're still like recognizable as leaves, which is really cool. I think we've got some laurels, we've got some dogwoods, we've got some magnolia leaves, and we've got some conifers. I think like a dawn redwood, metasequoia, and some other stuff that I don't know how to identify. So it's exciting. That's how we figure out what this ancient environment was like, is we look at the plants. It tells us what the climate was like, you know, what the landscape would have looked like with these trees growing everywhere. It's really important. The dinosaurs are obviously the coolest thing, and that's why we're out here, but we also want to learn about the environment as a whole, you know? What did Wyoming look like 73 million years ago? What kind of environment was this? How did it change? It's all part of giving us this perspective about the history of life on Earth, perspective that you can only really get through paleontology. It's neat stuff, and it's again a privilege to be a part of that. Anywho, yeah, even modern sequoias look ancient. Yeah, they do. There's a genus called Metasequoia that goes back to the Cretaceous period. It might even go back to the Jurassic, but I don't think so. I think it's Cretaceous. But we have them here. And so, yeah, sequoia trees, like the tallest trees in the world. The great sequoias, giant sequoias of Northern California. They had close relatives that lived way back here in Wyoming, 70 million years ago. It's pretty cool to think about. That's kind of a relic population. They're the last of their kind, the modern sequoias, like Sequoia sempervirens, the giant sequoia. Yeah. And let's see. And T-Cage says, show us your claw murderous turkeys. Yeah, I didn't bring my dromaeosaur claw out here, but back home in California, when I do streams from the office for 9 months out of the year, when I'm not in the field, I've got some cold open videos kind of recutting that scene from Jurassic Park. I think they're pretty funny.
Ontogeny.
People seem to like them. So yeah, I'll play some of those for you when I get back to the Bay Area, if you're still around. So stay tuned. Crystal Alpaca, thank you for the 20 months of support. I really appreciate that. Holy cow. Yeah. What do we have at the site behind you? Oh, who do we have at the site behind me? Well, Jody Fish. We've got, from left to right, Takuya, Quinn, Nick, and Colin up there, and they're digging up a ceratopsian dinosaur, a horned dinosaur. We'll go take a look in a minute. Yeah. But yeah. And let's see here. We had a question whether this was ocean. At certain times, this was ocean. So yeah, when we look out at at some of the rocks around here, we can see these different layers that are different colors, and those often represent different environments. So the Almond Formation, where we're digging, this is where we find the dinosaurs, in the Almond Formation. This is terrestrial strata, so stuff from land. Not dry land, but we're talking about rivers, swamps, lakes, streams, stuff like that that's laying down the sediment and burying these animals in it. Now, above the Almond Formation, I think we got the Lewis Shale. And that's marine. That's ocean bottom sediments. So that's when sea levels rose, and this area was underwater after that. So you get oceanic animals in there. You get fossils of marine clams and fishes, and maybe even, if we're lucky, mosasaurs or plesiosaurs or something. But I don't know if anybody's found any of those in the Lewis Shale yet. So yeah, that's cool. You learn how to read the rocks, and it's like a superpower. You can tell what was going on in Earth's past. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat stuff. And this fly. Go away, fly. Go away. Sorry. And Bussin' Bacon Boy says, are there ever any programs... chat's moving too fast. Any programs or something similar for people to do, like a day visit to sites like this and watch the process, possibly do a little digging themselves? Yeah, there are programs like that around the world. A lot of them here in North America. Yeah, type in !participate to pull up. There you go. Claire Burr already did it. Thank you, Claire. Yeah. It depends how long you want to be out doing field work. We've got volunteers on our crew who are going to be out for the entire summer, or the entire month of June, excuse me. And then we've got some who are just out here for a few days or a few weeks. And there are other programs where you can pay to dig for like an afternoon. And, they usually provide food and beverages and stuff like that for you too, trying to make you more comfortable. This is a professional crew, and we're training some new volunteers and people like that as well. So there's a bunch of different things like that you can find throughout the U.S. and North America and throughout the world. But almost every crew needs volunteers. None of us are really getting paid to be here. I guess I am, but only when I'm streaming. I get paid through Twitch. That's how I make my living. But for almost everybody here, unless they work for a museum and they're a salaried employee, they're not getting paid. Almost everybody who's volunteering here had to take time off of work in order to do that. So it's a sacrifice to be able to do this. But it's important work, and it's a privilege to be part of it, and we're all really excited to be here. But yeah. Here, let me walk back up there and we'll take a look. And it's not for the faint of heart. No, absolutely not. No. People have died in the field before. It's not... This isn't Disneyland. Yeah. It's better. But yeah, this is wild country, and it's, we're roughing it out here. Yeah. Anyway, let's go take a look, see what's going on in the quarry right now. Again, for anybody just joining us, welcome. My name's Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, streaming to you from beautiful western Wyoming, out in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful country. We're digging up some dinosaurs here for the museum in Cincinnati. That's where these fossils are going. And this is a ceratopsian, a horned dinosaur that we're digging up here. We've got some skull bones and some bones that we don't know what they are yet, which is exciting. This is what it looks like. You've probably seen dinosaur digs in the movies or on TV. That's that polished stuff. This is how it really is. Take a look. How's it going, guys?
Going.
Nice.
It's going pretty well.
Yeah, so Quinn is trenched around that.
I think he's going to follow your advice and tinfoil it.
Yeah. Nice.
Don't have any at the moment, though.
Yeah, I'm going to have to leave that for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do we have any gypsonas?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah?
I just didn't know if it was worth.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
It's
We'll talk to Ethan
so
about that.
fragile.
Yeah.
I mean, it
So
could
yeah,
be, but,
yeah.
you know.
Dinosaur bone is not always pristine and beautiful like in the movies. Sometimes it looks like this.
You mean the movies aren't real?
I know, right? I think you would have figured that out by now.
Next thing you're gonna tell me Jurassic Park wasn't based on a true story?
But yeah, this is what it's like, everybody. Oh, people are saying hi to you, Quinn.
Howdy.
He's
Yeah.
got fans.
And Swins07 says, tell Colin hi from
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
shit, Adam!
Wow.
How's it going, buddy?
From the entire city of Pittsburgh. That's quite the welcome,
The
isn't it?
entire city of Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh says hello.
I love you, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
That's fine.
It happens out here, yeah. Don't be afraid to take a break and put on more sunscreen.
Oh, I have about 4 times.
Yeah.
Only once. So.
Hopefully it, just turns to tan instead of just getting more and more red.
Yeah, trying to get that golden hue going.
Nice.
Yeah. My Irish, German, and Scottish we really tan very well. over there.
Famously, yes.
Famously so. What is heat stroke?
And then, we got some more bone over here. And then, any luck over here, Takuya?
No.
No bone yet?
I mean, there are no bones, which is, good piece of information.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it would be a much more difficult site to work if the bones were everywhere and just crisscrossed,
Right.
like pickup sticks, so.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice when you don't find bone in a particular area. Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to that, one of the questions earlier,
Uh-huh.
like how the bones are concentrated or, I guess, scattered around in
Uh-huh.
a certain area, it really depends, I would say.
Yeah.
So, but it is useful and important to determine where we don't have the bones so that we can narrow the area of
Ontogeny.
concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's catching up with the heat here very quickly.
Yeah, it's getting warm.
80 degrees right now, and
Much warmer than it was yesterday.
it's getting hot.
Yeah.
So, important thing about field work is to get yourself a lot of water.
Definitely.
That is the must. So,
Yeah.
try to stay as
Yep.
excited.
Yes. It's important to drink more water than you think you need because, dehydration can really catch up with you out here. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Takuya.
Of course.
Nice. So and this is nice because you can kind of see the slope of the bedding plane here. This would have been totally horizontal back when it was deposited, but we've got all this uplift here that pushed up these mountains and hills and stuff, and that's also pushes up the fossil-bearing layers and tilts them. So, it's a lot of stuff to consider when you're out here. Do we get sand in our shoes? Yeah, definitely. That's sand in our tents, sand in our ears, sand in our eyes, sand in our food.
Sand, I didn't know I could get sand where.
Yeah, find new spots where sand can work its way into. That's all part of it, Must love sand to be out here, or at least not hate it too much. Yeah. But hydration is a good thing. Speaking of which, let me go drink some water, and I'll put some sunscreen on my lips too. I hear a rock wren. Look up there. Hey, rock wren. Modern dinosaur right there. That long pointy beak. Let's see how close we can get. Oh. Nice. Rock wren. No, not a womp rat, a rock wren. All right. Got some water. Different water source. And then my chapstick. There we go. With that sun protection factor. Important. Don't want to get sunburned on your lips like I did last year. Nice. So yeah. And are there snakes in this area? Oh yeah, we've seen a few so far. There was a beautiful gopher snake on the road the other day, and we shooed her along so she didn't get squished by any of the rare vehicles that go up and down the roads up here. And we thought we heard a rattlesnake yesterday, but we didn't see it. So, yeah. But, yeah, we definitely get rattlers out here. Rattlesnakes, king snakes, I think, gopher snakes. We probably get garter snakes. That might be about it. I'm not sure. Not really a snake expert. Gotta admit. Do love snakes, though. They're very cool. And I always keep a snake stick in my vehicle when I do field work, or anytime I go on a road trip. So if I come across a snake on the road, I can safely relocate it, especially if it's venomous. Other snakes I could just pick up by hand, although you still don't want to get bit because you could get infected. But for rattlesnakes in particular, you use the snake stick. And we had 3 different rattlesnakes that got into camp last summer in Utah. And I used the snake stick for all 3 of those, moving them out of camp off to a safe spot. Because, yeah, snakes are people too. And it's good to be kind to them. Yeah. And Burek says, "Hi, how much do you earn as a paleontologist?" What do you mean, earn? I'm not getting paid to be here. Most of us aren't. I actually make my living through Twitch, believe it or not. You can call me the world's first full-time live streaming paleontologist. So I fund my research and outreach and fieldwork and everything else by live streaming. So, it's a modest living, but I get to be my own boss and make my own schedule, and that's hugely important, especially nowadays. So, yeah, very, very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, everybody here in the community who's supported me over the past 4 years, made all this possible. So thanks. I am grateful. Yeah, but most paleontologists don't necessarily get paid very well. Shoot, I know, I'm not going to name any names, but I know, this is back in 2018. It's a paleontologist at a university. PhD. He had I think a postdoc from Harvard and another postdoc from Yale. He was teaching a bunch of classes. And he even had graduate students as an adjunct professor, which is not supposed to happen. Adjuncts are not supposed to have students, but they made him have students anyway, without making him a full professor. And he was making about $9,000 a year. Or no, sorry, $12,000 a year. Yeah, so way, way, way less than minimum wage. It happens. Academia can be a cruel mistress. So yeah, to be a paleontologist, you I don't know, if you're not independently wealthy, it can be hard to make ends meet. You kind of got to take a vow of poverty in a certain way, But we do it because this is what we love, because this is what we're fascinated by, because we're passionate about, unlocking the mysteries of the history of life on Earth. That's what we're all about. And even though dinosaurs in particular can bring in a lot of money for movie studios or toy manufacturers or whoever else, dinosaurs are big money. We don't see any of that, even though we're the ones digging these things up and discovering them and popularizing them and everything else. We don't see any of that money usually. So yeah, don't become a paleontologist to try and get rich. That's ridiculous. It's like becoming a scuba diver to try and stay dry. And do professors of different subjects have wildly different salaries? Oftentimes, yes. I don't know. If you're like a professor at a business school, you probably make good money. I don't know. I really don't. It depends, I'm sure. Yeah. The joke that the only way to make money in paleontology is to teach paleontology does not apply. No, it does not apply. No. In fact, they're getting rid of a bunch of professorships across the country and around the world at different universities. You know, what used to be decently paying, you know, salaried, full, you know, tenure professorships, those are becoming less and less and less common with every passing year. Yeah, you've got more graduate students teaching classes, you've got fewer professors, and of course more and more bureaucrats and administrators just, you know, with higher salaries, just eating up more and more of that tuition money. Something needs to change or academia is gonna just die. It's not good. Unless you're a celebrity paleontologist, says it's rain. Yeah, like who? I can think of a few paleontologists who might make six figures. Yeah, but there's not very many of us. No. PhD academic, but finding a tenure track job is impossible now. I know. What is a tenure track job? What is this mythical thing? Yeah. And Jitsu Zone says, were ancient kangaroos even more ripped than modern ones? You know, I don't know. I'm not a mammal guy. I don't really work on fossil mammals, especially not fossil marsupials. But I would imagine that them being large, I don't know if that equates to being muscular. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you'd go about testing that either. I guess you'd try to look for a correlation between different skeletal morphology and different musculature in modern kangaroos, and then try to apply that to extinct kangaroos. That's how I would go about testing that idea. Because again, science is about testing ideas. You know, it's cool to have a hunch or a strong belief in something, but that's not science. Science is about testing ideas using evidence. And that's one of those concepts I'm always trying to get across here. Yeah. But yeah, Danny is anti-mammal. No, some of my best friends are mammals, MLF, you know? I'm not anti-mammal. You know, family in Green River. Oh, very cool. That's awesome, Killer Bee TX. Fond memories of finding fossils with my cousins out there. Yeah, Green River Formation fossils are some of the most famous in the world. There's every museum, every fossil museum in the world has got Green River, Wyoming, Green River Formation fossils from the Eocene. Not every fossil museum, but you know, a lot of them. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Some would say Danny is part mammal himself, says It's Rain. Some would say that, you know. 2-hour notification. Thank you, Lenina. Here, let me check on the battery. And is Nana Tyrannus here? Did I miss her? Holy cow. Nana Tyrannus says, be careful. You know I am, Nana. It's good to see you. I hope you're feeling better. But I'm having a blast out here in Wyoming. It's been wonderful. Yeah, digging at these different sites, live streaming, training some of our new crew members, you know. We've got a lot of people here who have never dug dinosaurs before. They've never been to this part of the world before. So it's really nice to, to be able to contribute to a group like this and, kind of help train a new generation of paleontologists too. And I'm sure there are people watching right now who will one day be paleontologists themselves. So it's wonderful to be able to share this, this field work with you at home, so you can see what it's really like. You know, this is not just reading about it in a book or seeing it in a documentary. You're watching this live, and we get to interact, have a conversation live. So, yeah, I'm so glad you're here, everybody, and I'm glad you're here, Nana. Love you. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, battery check. Let's do that. Let's see. Should have this right here. There we go. What are we at? Refresh the page. 36%. Let's plug that baby in. There we go. And wait for it to change. Come on now. It's charging. Excellent. Good, good, good. Yeah, let me know if you've got any other questions. Anybody? Yeah. Being a paleontologist and studying science, says Gary and Kellis, seems to me like an intellectual pursuit, like going to the gym and working out might be a physical pursuit. You do it for personal reasons, to work your brain, but I don't know. Well, being a paleontologist can often be a very physical thing too, like we do out here. All of the rock that we removed this morning, that was quite the workout. Doing some overburden here, just with picks and shovels. Yeah, it's really something. I'll show you, try and walk you through what we did this morning so you can see. And would you name the newly found dinosaurs? Yeah, I mean, our crew will eventually. I might even be an author on this paper when it comes out. But first we got to dig the thing up, get it safely to Cincinnati, where it'll be Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. Probably Pittsburgh, actually, where it'll be prepped. Yeah. Yes, Nick here was actually working on this in Pittsburgh, which is really cool. He was prepping this, the bits that we dug up last year.
I got the cast over Moses.
And,
Oh, really?
yeah. And now he's out here digging up more of it. So that's pretty darn cool.
It's like reverse full circle, you know?
Yeah.
It started off with what you guys had last year, and then went back out, and it's almost poetic that I'm finding more. And
It really is.
I
Yeah.
think, always fun to speculate, but I think I found pieces that might fit on the top, but we'll have
Nice.
to check and see.
Let's hope they do. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if not, then it'll still be a part of it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Any
So-
chat questions regarding pairing fossils? I don't know if there's any.
Yeah, we'll see. Does anybody have any questions about fossil prep, about cleaning the fossils in the laboratory? Let me know. There is a bit of a delay here, so it'll be a minute or two before those questions come in. But I came up here to show everybody the overburden that we did this morning. So this site looks a lot different from when I showed it to you the other day, because we've been doing overburden. So where Quinn is sitting right there, all this yellow stuff, this was a rock wall right here. We removed all of that this morning in order to be able to get down to the bone layer and find more of this. So that was, some physical exertion, picking and shoveling and, grunting and throwing rocks, all that stuff, Yeah.
Action shots.
A lot of action shots. We did actually get some really nice photos, which is cool. Yeah. So field work, it's hard work. But it's I look forward to it every year, for a paleontologist who does field work, his or her whole year kind of revolves around the field season. It's like I said this yesterday, but it's like a really nice kind of reset. You get out into the wilderness. You get to hang out with people who share your interests, with colleagues and friends. It's like, I don't know. It's like a vacation if being on a chain gang were a vacation. But yeah, and I'll tell you one thing. When you get out in the field for a few weeks or a few months, an interesting thing happens, like with your brain. Your attention span increases tremendously. It's so much easier to just sit down and read a book. You don't have the constant pinging of notifications on your phone. You don't have, the attention span draining media like, YouTube and stuff like that. It's kind of a slower pace, and it's just nice to disconnect and be present in the moment. I know it sounds corny, but it's a real thing, and it's really, really nice to have that. It's kind of a cure for a lot of the ailments of modern life and civilization, I think. Does that make sense? Am I being too corny here? Belram says, great stream idea. I love this sort of stuff. Love the educational and IRL aspect. Great work. Thank you, Belram. Wonderful to have you here. I'll be streaming as often as I can. Probably, hopefully, close to every day till the end of June from here in the field. And then briefly from beginning of July through about July 14th, I'll be back home in the Bay Area doing some streams from my office, like I do for the rest of the year. And then it's back out to Utah after that. From mid-July to mid-August, I'll be streaming more fieldwork from near Moab, Utah, digging up some more dinosaurs. We've got another new species of dinosaur that we're digging up, probably several new species, and I'll be showing you how that works. It'll be a different kind of vibe from what we're doing here, because I'll be at the same site every day, pretty much, and you'll see a lot more of the hands-on digging, because we've got a much smaller crew, and I need to actually be there contributing during the streams for big parts of it. So it'll be nice, it'll be chill, it'll be, yeah, just kind of like hanging out with paleontologists as we dig, rather than me walking around with the camera like I'm doing right now. Does that make sense? Yeah. Why are you the only one that dresses like they're in Jurassic Park? I dress like I'm in Jurassic Park? No, I dress like a paleontologist. I don't know. I wear what makes sense for out here. We were throwing a lot of dust around earlier and the wind was really bad, so hence the dust and wind goggles. It's the same hat I've been using. I've had this hat for 16 years now. Can you believe that? 16 years. I've had this hat with me in the field every summer since 2011. Yeah, I guess I got it a few years before then. But yeah. And then, you know, boots, essential in this kind of terrain. Having high boots like this, a lot of ankle support, you know, protects you from things like rattlesnakes if they try and bite you. These are 8-inch boots right here. And shorts to keep me cool. You know, nice kind of dirt-colored shirt. Doesn't show dirt too well, keeps me cool as well. But yeah, it's all practical stuff. Yeah. And let's see here. Army surplus stuff. I do have a lot of Army surplus gear, absolutely. This shirt is kind of Army surplus, but kind of not, too. You can get it at a surplus store. And Hundo Thou says, your fit goes hard, dog. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah. Yeah, but, you know, it's all practical. Let's see here. And any other questions anybody's got? No Twitch branded onesie. No, definitely not out here. I did get some Twitch sunglasses at a Twitch event a couple months ago, but I forgot to bring them out here. Yeah, I don't know. They're not, probably wouldn't work quite as well as sunglasses I have anyway. I don't think they're polarized. I've got aviators that I use out here. And Lehilin, oh, Lenina, thank you for reposting that question from Lehilin. What kind of dinosaurs lived in Wyoming and how had the landscape been back then? Excellent question. Let's talk about that. So, right now, in western Wyoming, the terrain looks like this. You know? 7,000 feet in elevation here, near the town of Green River. This is what we would call high desert. It's dry and hot during the summer, with big thunderstorms. During the winter, it's cold and snowy. And all year, it's windy, windy, windy. We have, as you can currently tell, you can hear that wind. This is not what it was like 73 million years ago. 73 million years ago, this was sea level right here. And this would have been oceanfront property. So the Western Interior Seaway was just out there. And just out here. This area was flat, flat, flat. Picture like present-day Louisiana, Mississippi Delta. It would have been kind of almost subtropical, warm, humid. You had cypress trees and stuff like Spanish moss, probably. Actually, I don't know. Spanish moss may have evolved later. Redwoods and laurels and dogwood trees. rivers and estuaries, swamps and oxbow lakes, and floodplains on which you had lots of dinosaurs walking around. Dinosaurs like these guys. This is what we're digging up right now, a horned dinosaur. It will certainly look a little bit different from this guy. Probably different horn, different frill shape, different spikes on it. But this is your general kind of dinosaur here, a ceratopsid. Like this. This is, I believe, Pentaceratops right here. So our critter that we're digging up right now, this is basically what its skeleton looks like. And then some of the other sites we're digging up, duckbill dinosaurs. Look like this. Both these guys are plant eaters. And these would have been the most common kinds of dinosaurs in this environment. Most common large dinosaurs, at least. Living in this, kind of Louisiana bayou, Mississippi floodplain kind of environment. Let me show you a map here. So this is roughly what North America looked like at the time. So you had the western interior seaway kind of cutting the continent in two. And at times it contracts and expands, sea level rises and falls. We're right here in Wyoming, right about there. This chart is supposed to be 70.4 million years ago. The rocks that we're digging in here are about 73 million years old. 7.3. And at that time, the sea levels had risen to the point where the beach was right along here. This was the coast, basically right where we are. And as the sea level rose, this area would have also been inundated, I think. So you would have had North America completely cut in two. Yeah, so much, much different from today. A lot can happen in 73 million years. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, give or take a year. Yeah, we don't know if it's exactly 73 million. We do have some ash samples. I was talking with Ethan about this morning. They're already in the laboratory. Was it at Yale? I forget where. Somewhere on the East Coast. We've already got ash bed samples, so like volcanic ash from the Almond Formation. That's in a laboratory already, and I think we're just waiting on them to process it and then give us our numbers so we know exactly how old these rocks are. So that's exciting stuff. Yeah. Ethan said he was talking to Kirk Johnson about that, the head of the Smithsonian in D.C. Yeah. And how far are you from civilization? I can't really tell you that, ouch, ouch, because we're trying to be discreet about where we are. We don't want poachers discovering our sites and stealing the fossils or smashing things up. That does happen. So I can't tell you how far we are from Green River. But we're in that general kind of area, you know? Yeah. And Killfax says, does that mean you would only find aquatic creatures in the central U.S.? No, there would have been, rivers and lakes throughout different parts of North America at the time. But what we see here, we know that this is like the coast for a number of different reasons. Part of it is just these like estuarine sediments. So like we know that this was an ancient delta environment here that would have been right near the coast. Think about present day, like the Louisiana Bayou. Think about the Mississippi Delta. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Do you need more volunteers this summer? We are full up for volunteers, Enigma. But if you would like to participate in something like this, there are different programs across the U.S. and Canada and other parts of the world where you can go volunteer on a dinosaur dig. So I'd recommend looking into that if you're interested. If you think you could put up with the conditions in a place like this. Because again, it's not for everybody. I'll put it that way. Yeah. But yeah. And I don't have a command for my hat, but I can tell you this is a leather Australian slouch hat. I got this hat 16 years ago. 16 years ago, if you can imagine that. Best $45 I ever spent. This is my trusty field hat. It is leather, so it doesn't breathe particularly well, but we have so much wind here and it's not particularly hot. Later when I'm in Utah, when it's 115 degrees outside, I'll be wearing a different hat, a sun helmet, and you'll see that later in the summer. And Actual Reverend says, I bet that after a long day, or maybe the end of a dig, the party is amazing, right? Oh yeah, every night. No, we have a good time. We definitely have a good time. Got a campfire, got a bunch of camp chairs. We sit around and talk and laugh and play music, and yeah, especially later on in the season, when we've been out here for almost a month, there is a tendency to go a little bit feral, and you might be seeing that as the month of June unfolds. You know, bit by little bit, everybody, yeah, you know, it's getting a little bit more feral with each day. Beards get shaggier, clothes get more torn, and we get filthier, and yeah, fewer inhibitions, for certain. With everyone being 21 and single, I bet it gets pretty wild. Exactly, Steely Dan. Yeah, absolutely. And 2 hours have already passed. Thank you, Hellion. Thank you. Let me double check, make sure that this is still charging. Trying to conserve our battery as best we can. Beautiful, yeah. Good. Excellent. The clothes come off. I mean, maybe a little bit, Gary and Kellis. Yeah. I wasn't here for the very end of last season in Wyoming, but I am told, and I've seen video evidence, that it got pretty rowdy. Yeah. A little rough around the edges. Exactly, ouch. Yeah. And have you done any digs in Cleveland Lloyd in Utah? I've not dug at Cleveland Lloyd, but I've been there a number of times. Yeah. With a group of other paleontologists, which is pretty cool. But I've never stayed there for more than a few hours. Yeah, but I've done other work around Utah for sure. Near the town of Moab. I've been doing field work there. This will be my third summer working near Moab, and I'll be live streaming it. So I hope you can tune in for that. Anyway, Utah's got some incredible dinosaur-bearing rocks, incredible dinosaurs, and really cool people. So I'm excited to show you that later on in the summer. And Cleveland Lloyd in particular is a really neat spot. Jurassic National Monument. It has been designated now. Jurassic National Monument. You can look it up. And let's see. Frank927, thank you, Claireber, for reposting. Taking my chance again. My question: what is the best dinosaur museum you recommend? Oh goodness, it depends where you are. Some of my favorite museums are museums that I've contributed specimens to or contributed work to. I used to work at Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana. They do have, if not the largest, one of the largest collections of dinosaur fossils anywhere on the planet. Highly recommend Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana. If you're looking for like a small museum, if you're ever driving through North Dakota and you want to see a charming little dinosaur museum where they're really doing some important work, check out the Badlands Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson, North Dakota. My old crew chiefs, I should say, Denver Fowler and Liz Friedman Fowler, they run that museum, and they are building this enormous field program. I think that if there's any museum that punches well above its weight, it's the Badlands Dinosaur Museum in Dickinson, North Dakota. And I helped design and produce some of the exhibits there, so check it out if you're ever in North Dakota. Make sure you visit. Yeah, and then there's a number of other like large, well-funded museums in different metropolitan areas throughout the U.S. There's a museum in Salt Lake City, Natural History Museum of Utah. I collect specimens for them when I'm in Utah later in the summer. Yeah, so many others. The Field Museum in Chicago, AM&H in New York City. There's so many different museums to recommend. But there you go. Best museum in Germany, Muscari. Well, that's a good question. I'd say probably the one in Berlin. Yeah. The Museum für Naturkunde. Did I say that right? It's pretty incredible. See the Berlin Archaeopteryx, see Giraffe Titan, that huge brachiosaur. The Brachiosaurus from Jurassic Park is based on that specimen in Berlin. The tallest mounted fossil dinosaur skeleton in the world. Pretty cool. And have I ever studied Sue in Chicago? No, I've never actually studied Sue herself. I've not really worked on tyrannosaurs. Not yet, at least. Yeah. Well, I've worked on I've excavated tyrannosaurs, but I've never worked on them like in a museum setting. I've never worked on Sue. No. Seen her a number of times. We go way back. But dinosaur paleontologists, we have mixed feelings about Sue because she kind of represents a lot that's wrong with like commercial paleontology. You know, like selling fossils and stuff like that, and you know, anytime you do that, you're just inviting trouble. Yeah. Anywho, Utah is impossible to reach due to a giant chasm, says Smurf. Or the San Rafael swell. There's this huge like upswelling of rock, this huge geological structure in Utah that they only managed to put a highway through in like the 1970s, I think. It's such a big like a mountain range, basically, just kind of coming up out of the desert floor, and you can see it from space. The San Rafael swell, yeah, that used to make travel impossible for years and years and years, until they finally managed to put a highway through it in like the 70s, I think. We used to have to go all the way around. So yeah, travel through Utah is a lot easier than it used to be, for certain. And Danime says, can you clear up the whole Brontosaurus thing? Like it wasn't considered not a thing and now it's back to being a thing? We've got a command for that. It depends who you ask. So, here, I'll try and do this from memory. So back in the 1870s, 1880s, there was a paleontologist named Othniel Charles Marsh. He named a lot of your favorite dinosaurs. Brontosaurus, aka Apatosaurus, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Allosaurus. He named all those guys. And so Marsh and his rival Edward Drinker Cope got into this big feud, and they had this just ongoing rivalry. They would send out crews to the American West, many times out here in Wyoming. And they would have their crews dig up dinosaurs, and then they would race to publish them, and you know, they'd try to outdo each other. But in their haste, they made a lot of goofs and mistakes and stuff. They named a lot of dinosaurs that turns out like, oh shoot, they already previously named that, and then they didn't realize it. There were a lot of mistakes. Brontosaurus is kind of considered one of those mistakes. Where Marsh found he named a big sauropod dinosaur, a big long-necked plant-eating dinosaur. He named it Apatosaurus, whose name means deceptive lizard. And then he found one that looked very similar, but a much better skeleton, much more complete, and he named it Brontosaurus, thunder lizard, which is a much better name. And because it was a better skeleton, it became famous. And there's like a mounted skeleton at Yale. It just became like one of the classic quintessential Jurassic dinosaurs. Brontosaurus. Everybody knows it, partially because it's got such a good name. Brontosaurus, thunder lizard. But then in 1903, there was another paleontologist named Elmer Riggs. And Elmer Riggs realized, oh, they're the same critter. Like, they seem to be the same animal. Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus. But here's the thing. We've got like a set of rules that governs the names for animals. The ICZN, the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. And that clearly states that if two names are given to the same animal, you got to get rid of one of them. You keep the name that was published first. And so unfortunately, Apatosaurus was the name that was published first. And so Brontosaurus, even though it's a wonderful name, that got sunk, got rid of that name. It's what we call a junior synonym. It's the same thing, but it's not as old, so we get rid of it. Then, fast forward to, I think it was 2015, some paleontologists, including Emmanuel Schopp, who works on like sauropod systematics, he was looking at a lot of these specimens and he's like, well, these look a little bit different. So we're going to try and bring back the name Brontosaurus. Maybe it's not the same exact animal. And so that's kind of where it stands right now. Some people accept this. Some people think that they're actually subtly different animals. And so the name Brontosaurus should be brought back. Some paleontologists think that they are the same thing. And so you should say Apatosaurus instead of Brontosaurus. So it's kind of up in the air right now. There's no official, vote or governing body that will declare whether or not Brontosaurus is a name that we should use. There was that vote with Pluto, with the International Astronomical Association or something like that, International Union of Astronomers, whoever. They held a vote. Pluto is no longer a planet. We're no longer going to consider it a planet. We don't have something like that for dinosaurs. So it all comes down to kind of general consensus. And some dinosaur workers still use the name Brontosaurus, and some dinosaur workers don't. Personally, I don't. But, there will be more work on these critters, and eventually we'll come to a proper consensus at some point in the future. But that's where it stands right now. It's a long story. I hope that answers your question. Thanks for asking it. Yeah. And let's see here. Mommy does this question from my husband. Given right now is June, how many dig sites are going on during each dig season in the U.S.? Great question. Holy cow. So here with our crew, we've got 4 different dig sites going. With big crews, oftentimes you split people up into different sites if you've got different sites to work. Let me think of, off the top of my head, how many other crews are working right now. Denver and Liz, I'm sure they're working up in Montana. They're probably working a dozen sites, I'd imagine. You've got Josh Lively and his crew down in Utah. They're probably working a dozen sites, at least over the course of the summer. Well, no, but we're talking about right now. We'll say Denver and Liz have got 4 sites. We'll say Josh Lively has 4 sites. We've got, let's see, I bet you Nate Carroll might be out doing field work a little bit. So, there's probably close to 100 different dinosaur sites that are all concurrently going right now. Maybe. That might be a bit too high. Let's say 50. We'll say there are 50 different dinosaur sites. But then there's people digging up all kinds of other things too. Mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, Cenozoic mammals, Paleozoic critters. So yeah, it's a tough question to answer. But right now, there are probably about, let's say 50 different paleontological crews out working across the United States right now. So in total, probably about, I'd say between 200 and 400 people are probably out currently digging fossils in the field at this very moment, I'd imagine. We'll have to return to this question later and get Glenn and Takuya and some other people, get their opinions as well. Yeah. But yeah. Let's see. Mukul Hossein says, do you believe in dinosaur? Do you mean, do I believe that dinosaurs existed and we're currently digging up their bones right now? Absolutely, yeah. Let me take you back up there and show you. Yeah. Can you tell the story of the Thakerizer? I don't know what that is. Posolute reticuli? Thakerizer. Do you mean Thagomizer? The stegosaur tail spike array. If that's what you mean, yeah, I can tell you that story. Yeah. Give me just a minute, though. Let's go up here and take a look at the site. Oh, cool, we've got Glenn right here. We can ask him that question about number of field crews. But yeah, for everybody just waltzing in, welcome to Paleontologizing. We're here digging up a ceratopsian dinosaur. What will very likely be a new species or a new genus, if we're lucky. If we can find enough of the skull. But this is a site that Nick Longrich found last summer when he was on our crew. And we've gotten our excavation permits, we're back. We're digging into the hill and we're finding more bone, which is always exciting. There we go. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Anything new?
Actually, yes.
Nice.
Talk to Quinn.
Oh, okay. What do we got, Quinn?
I popped open this sandstone block. It's really nothing right now. I just found this.
We found the end
Hint of a bone?
Yeah, hint of a bone. It's running.
Nice. Excellent.
So it's obviously coming over from here to here. This thing's gonna be pretty big.
Nice.
And that is good news.
That is excellent. Hopefully it's more of the frill.
Yeah,
Yes. That's exactly what we want.
exactly.
Yeah, so here's a nice chunk of frill right here. You can see it's shiny because we've got some glue on it. It'll keep it from falling apart.
There's a piece that fell off that doesn't really fit super snug in there,
Yeah.
so we have it in
Good.
a separate container, but another piece extends above that.
Nice. So again, for anybody just tuning in, this is not going to look super pretty just to start with. Just, you know, we're just beginning here, and it's never going to look like it does in the movies. This is real life. Yeah, just like how people don't always look like they do in the movies. Not quite as glitzy and glamorous in real life here. But it's realer, you know?
I mean,
Well, I mean,
Sean Connery? No, not Sean Connery as Genghis Khan. No, it was John Wayne.
John Wayne is Genghis Khan. Yeah, yeah.
No, you were telling me that's not a pretty accurate representation of Genghis Khan?
I presume it's not, but I don't know. I've never met Genghis Khan, so I don't think we have very many good photos of him, you know.
He's a great guy.
But yeah.
I wouldn't call him a great guy.
Anyway, yeah.
The opposite of
Welcome
that.
everybody. Let's go ask Glenn that question if he's up for that. When he just got here. Yeah. How's it going, Glenn? How are things over at Turtle Hill?
Turtle Hill's coming along. We
Nice.
found some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Today, after you left, you may have seen the bone that Cameron was
He just uncovered, or I think Jesse had just found it. The one with the
Ah.
weird kind of like keel on it.
Oh, that's a separate one, yeah.
Separate one.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's a little bit higher up in the hill in the section.
Uh huh.
Jesse got that out. Still seems to be a fragment of dinosaur bone of some sort.
Interesting.
Tough to say what
Uh-huh.
at this point. But down in the fish layer, the very plant hash fish layer stuff,
Yeah.
Cameron found what we thought might have been kind of a large rib at one point.
Nice.
But when we took it out, flipped it over, it appears to be a jaw element from this big game-eared fish. So
Wow.
That's cool.
Holy cow. That's got to be enormous if it's.
it's a big fish.
Geez. So an amy is like a bowfin. Do we have any fisher people in chat familiar with the bowfin? You know how big they get today. This was so much bigger than that. Like, how long would you say? Like 3 meters, maybe?
Maybe nearly that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like 9 feet, something like that. Like big animal.
Yeah, it's cool. We're finding other stuff too. Teleost vertebrae, so different kinds of
Nice.
fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Found some freshwater ray teeth and perhaps dermal denticles,
Very cool.
gar scales,
Uh-huh.
gar teeth, that sort of stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff to around.
Awesome. Very cool. Thanks, Glenn. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick too to any viewers who are new here?
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name is Glenn Storrs. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Science and Research at Cincinnati Museum Center. And this is a long one, so bear with me. I'm also the Withrow Farney Curator of Vertebrate Paleontology.
Very nice. Yeah. So yeah, Glenn is a big shot. We're lucky to have him here. And these fossils are going to his museum. That's why he's out here. And yeah, we're grateful for all the work you put into repositing these things and making this possible. Like,
The work doesn't end just here.
oh no,
Got to get it back to the
for
lab.
years and years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Open up the blocks, clean this stuff out.
Yeah.
Things.
So there's a lot of resources that they've got to put into this. So, you know, it's wonderful to have Glenn and everybody out here, but man, it's so much time and money that goes into getting these fossils, keeping them there in perpetuity.
Yeah, the general public doesn't often realize the broad range of things that museums do. So
Yeah.
they certainly think of education,
Mhm.
typically through museum exhibits and maybe outreach programs.
Yeah.
But really, we have a tripartite mission. It's also conserving our natural heritage for posterity, as you say, and then
Yeah.
conducting basic research on that material.
Yep. Yeah, and that takes a lot of resources. So support your local museums. And if we have anybody here in the state of Ohio, if you've not yet been to the museum in Cincinnati, do yourself a favor, go there. It is pretty darn cool. And eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to see some of these fossils on display. Or maybe you'll be able to see some of them being worked on in the lab. Do you have like a viewing lab there?
We do, yeah.
Nice.
It's state of the art, but we've got big windows. So.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, and we had another question too. Someone was asking, how many crews do you think are out working right now at this moment?
Gosh.
In June. I said maybe maybe there's 50 crews who are working right now in the U.S., but that might be too high. I
I
don't
think
know.
it's too high.
Yeah?
Typically, when I've come out in the past, now
Yeah.
granted that sometime
Yeah.
ago, wait a little bit later in the summer because some places June is the rainy season.
Yeah, or the gnat season,
Or
like
the
down in
gnat
Utah.
season.
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the end of June and the beginning of July,
Yeah.
I would say 30 crews
30 crews.
would be my guess, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one to estimate. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
also depends what you're working on. There are lots of people looking for little mammal teeth and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, people going out on the weekend to dig up a camel here and there or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, but if you're talking about big dinosaur crews, it'd be
about 30.
less. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Thanks, Glenn.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, we got Jesse here from just fresh over from Turtle Hill. Yeah, Jesse, where are you from?
Eagle Mountain, Sandy.
Nice. From Utah. Yeah. Cool. Good day at Turtle Hill?
Oh yeah. I found a dinosaur bone.
Yeah. The
No
one with the
idea what it
keel on
was.
it, the one that I
Yeah.
saw earlier?
Weird one.
Nice. Yeah. It's weird to find like a big chunk like that at kind of a microsite, but
Yeah.
it's an interesting place. There's cool stuff going on there. We need to figure that out. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, let me see what other questions we've got here. Yeah. And let me go get some water before I forget. I just gotta stay hydrated. Let's see, what time is it? 4:45. All right. Yeah, excellent. And Husker Juice says, what kind of tools did paleontologists use before the dig starts to know where to dig? Well, a lot of geological maps, satellite photos, Google Earth, stuff like that. That's how we can kind of scout locations before we actually arrive in the areas where we're looking for fossils. That's the kind of thing, We're lucky in that nowadays most of Earth's rocks have been mapped. So we know what age the rocks are in different places on our planet, and that really helps us to be able to know where to look for particular kinds of fossils depending on what we're interested in finding. Yeah. Let's see. Turn that around a little bit more. 86%. Get that more into direct sunlight here. There we go. Let's see. 40 lots, 37, 38. Wonder if that'll increase it. So I'm trying to make sure we're not running at too much of a deficit here with solar battery and the solar panel. Output's still much higher. The Starlink is kind of an electricity hog, but that's okay. It's better than having no electricity at all, and no internet. Yeah. What do you mean by keeled specimen, Werewolf Cast? So it was a bone that had like a ridge on it, like a peak. So I don't know. It was like triangular in cross section, I guess, is what I meant. Yeah. And postulate reticuli. Let me tell you the story of the thagomizer, I guess. So stegosaurs, These are dinosaurs that mostly lived in the Jurassic. Plates on their back, spikes on their tail. There is a comic strip from comic artist Gary Larson, did the Far Side comics, classic. He had this one with, and I'm going to be explaining a joke to you. It's not going to be this is not ideal. If I were back in my office, I'd just show it to you. But, there's like these cavemen in a cave, and they've got I guess they're watching a slide projector. And then on the slide projector, there's a stegosaurus tail with the spikes. And one of the cavemen is pointing to it, and he goes, we call this end the Thagomizer, after the late Thag Simmons, implying that there was like a caveman who got killed by a stegosaurus spiky tail. Well, there were a lot of scientists who, especially like back in the 80s and 90s, really liked the Far Side and would, clip them out of newspapers and put them up on their office walls and stuff like that, on their office doors. And I think it was paleontologist Ken Carpenter who was working on stegosaurs. He decided to actually use that term, Thagomizer, in some scientific papers and in some popular media too, I think. And so it's kind of an informal term that we have, Thagomizer, the spiky tail of a stegosaur. So that's the story there. Hope that answers the question. And thank you, Charlie's Dragon, for posting it. I would like to emphasize that that cavemen and stegosaurs did not live at the same time. Nowhere close. The last of the stegosaurs died out about 120 million years before the first humans evolved. So there's a big time gap there. They were not contemporaries. Standard disclaimer. Gotta make that clear. Anyway, hope you're having fun, everybody. This is neat. I can keep going for about maybe another half hour or so, and then I gotta wrap this up. Because we'll be going back to camp, and I gotta help take down the site and everything, and then carry all this gear back to the vehicles. And that's quite the undertaking on rugged terrain like this. From Commander Argo, got a question. Thank you, Mommy Does, for reposting it. What percentage of fossils never get to be seen by the public or are put on display, but are still used to further increase the knowledge of the science and study of certain areas of certain periods? Probably like between 90 and 99% of fossils don't go on public display. They're in the back part of the museum, in the collections. They're in the research laboratories. The fossils that get put on display are usually the most pretty or charismatic or showy or impressive specimens. It's a lot of dinosaurs. But there's also a lot of dinosaurs behind the scenes too, in the museum collections. It's a lot. In fact, maybe we can go ask Glenn that and get an answer from him, because that's what he does as curator of paleontology there. Foldo says, just found the stream today, loving the content. I've got to run, but looking forward to tomorrow. Hopefully I can stream tomorrow. Yeah. I'll be streaming almost every day, whenever I can, throughout the month of June from here in the field. And then going back to California for about 2 weeks. And then going back out to Utah for close to a month to stream from the field there, digging up some more dinosaurs near Moab, Utah. So it's gonna be a full summer, and I'm glad you're here for it. Thanks for joining. But yeah, let's see. And every specimen is sacred. Absolutely, yeah. So, for the most part. We usually don't collect things that are not of scientific importance, because it takes time and energy and money to be able to do this, and blood, sweat, and tears to be able to get these things out of the ground back to the laboratory where they can be cleaned and processed and glued and consolidated and then put into collections, usually where there's limited space. We're only collecting things that are of scientific importance or scientific interest. So every one of these things that we collect is important. Even if we don't even if we think this thing might not be the most important right now, you never know who's going to come along in the future and be working on a project where that fossil will be the key to understanding a concept or something. That's why it's really important to preserve these things for posterity. It's the whole point of a museum. Like Glenn was saying, the general public, you really only see the front of the museum. You see the showroom floor with the displays, mounted dinosaur skeletons and stuff like that. The beating heart of the museum is the collections. It's the research laboratories. It's the stuff behind the scenes. That's really why the museum exists. That's its societal importance. Beyond the education and outreach part, its scientific importance is all the stuff behind the scenes. Yeah. And what collecting practices can hurt the scientific significance of a fossil? The great question, Mommy does. I'll pick on commercial collectors here a little bit, because if you're collecting fossils for profit, you're probably not working as slowly as or carefully as you should. Probably not collecting as much data as you should, because all that stuff is overhead. There are commercial collectors who do collect good data, and they've got good excavation practices and all that stuff, but it cuts into profits. So yeah. And are deserts the best environment to find new fossils? Huron emu, great name. I would say in general, yeah. That's why we're out here in the high desert of western Wyoming, is because this is an area where you've got all of this territory to explore. You've got all of this exposed rock here. Not very much plant cover, You don't have plants obscuring the rock, making it more difficult to find these fossils. We've got pretty sparse vegetation here, really scrubby, low-to-the-ground stuff. Sorts of plants that can survive in such a dry and heavily eroded environment. All this erosion that kind of keeps good soils from forming here. This kind of erosion also exposes these fossils for us to find. So all those things are hallmarks of desert environments, and that's what makes them so great for finding fossils. If you have rocks of the right age and they're in a desert environment, rocks of the right age and the right type, you're going to find fossils there. But yeah. Let's see. Scrolling. Yeah. And since we have mild winters and ridiculous summers, says Samar Faye, thank you Claire for reposting. When do crews work in the Arizona low desert? They work in this. I think they. I don't know actually. My first instinct is to say, they still work in the summer, like we do in Utah. When I'm going to be out there near Moab in July and August, it's going to be 115 degrees Fahrenheit, like 41, 42 degrees Celsius, something like that. We have to work at that time because that's when school is out. The academic calendar is what dictates that. It'd be lovely to be able to go out and dig in October when it's not as hot, when the weather is lovely. But we need volunteer labor. We need students to help us. And students are in school in October. So we have to dig during the summer. Later on, when I'm out there in Utah and when it's very hot, I'm sure you'll hear Jim Kirkland talk about that on stream. Oh, the academic calendar, Yeah. Great question, Samar Faye. Thanks for asking. I would think you would want to map a site and look at everything, including the bones. It will tell you what the environment was like. You're absolutely right, Commander Argo. Yeah. Any bit of information that we can get from a site like this is important. So we map everything out. We record every last little bit of fossil, whether it's dinosaur bone or whether it's the teeth or scales of a fish or the shell of a turtle, whatever. All of that stuff is really important. And the rock itself is really important too. Usually we'll be taking samples of it back to the laboratory, oftentimes in plaster jackets along with the fossil bones. But being able to describe what's going on in the rock, what we call the lithology, is really important. And sometimes we'll do like a micro sedlog, so we'll see if the sediment is finding upward in the strata that we're working in, or like what's going on with the rock there, the color, the consistency, everything else. All of that is important information. And that's the information that we're collecting here. But let's see here. And Husker Deuce says more recent animal remains get preserved for a very long time in certain wet environments like peat bogs. Is that true for dinosaurs too? Probably, although in order to get them until today, those peat bogs would have to, you would actually have to have fossilization occur. We don't get organic material over, like more recent stuff like you were saying. That might be a few thousand years old, which is nothing. That's nothing. The rocks we're digging in here, this is from almost the end of the age of dinosaurs. Very late. These are very geologically young dinosaurs here. And it's still 73 million years old. So yeah. Some of this stuff, like maybe this dinosaur did die in something kind of similar to a peat bog. I don't know. I'm not going to say peat bog. I'm not going to say that. But this kind of organic, rich, shaly kind of rock that this dinosaur is coming out of probably is from the bottom of a bog or an oxbow lake or something like that. Yeah, that makes sense? Yeah. So in order to get a dinosaur that died in a peat bog preserved until today, you would have to have had conditions be right in order for that peat bog to get fossilized. There's not going to be any soft tissue left. That stuff absolutely rots away over tens of millions of years. It needs to get fossilized. It needs to get partially turned to stone in order for it to survive until today, over that length of time. Yeah. And let's see. Other questions? When is the dinosauring scheduled to begin? It already started, Isomorph. We're 5 days in, digging up these dinosaurs here. Again, I'm here at this ceratopsian site. Yesterday I was at a hadrosaur site, duck-billed dinosaur. And the day before that at a different duck-billed dinosaur site. I think the day before that I was here, so... Yeah. And Kenzoikum, it's late in Germany, good night. Good night to you too. I hope to see you around soon. Thanks for joining us. This has been fun. And Nova Penguin asks, are there any interesting theories that consider the survivor bias of the fossils we find in regard to what else might have been that we never find evidence of? Absolutely, Nova Penguin, yeah. That's like Paleontology 101. I'm really glad you asked that question. It's a good one. Right as it gets really windy here. So generally the creatures that fossilize the most readily, the ones that we find the best fossils of, are creatures that have hard parts. Whether that's bones, whether that's shells, whether that's spines or whatever else, hard parts fossilize a lot more easily than soft parts. That's why there's so many more fossil snails than there are fossil slugs, I honestly don't know if we have any fossil slugs anywhere in the world. Like land slugs. We probably do. But snail shells are what usually get preserved. All the soft, squishy stuff rots away. That doesn't make it. But when a shell gets buried... Say you bury a snail in the bottom of a lake. Snail dies. It's at the bottom of a lake. Gets covered up by sediment. The fleshy parts of it are going to rot away. The shell lasts a little longer, and hopefully it lasts long enough, after it's been buried, that it gets permineralized, that minerals from the water there seep into it, and they replace some of the organic parts with minerals from the water. It gets permineralized, it becomes fossilized. So yeah. And then there's other preservation biases as well. In certain environments, there might be like a size bias. So like big animals might be preferentially preserved. Small animals, not so much. And then part of that also is that like even if the small animals do get preserved, if they get fossilized, they're harder to find. So they're not going to get collected as often. So there's a bias there too. We talk all about this sort of thing in paleontology and paleoecology, kind of a subset of paleontology, looking at ancient environments and their compositions and what different critters are doing in the environment, who is where and why. Yeah. So yeah, great question. Glad you asked it. That's why you don't find megalodons, but only find their teeth. There you go, Commander Argo. Yeah, because sharks, their skeletons are mostly made out of cartilage. Cartilage doesn't fossilize as easily as bone does. Cartilage rots much more quickly. It decomposes much faster. And so you get the fossils of bony fish much more frequently than you get the fossils, like the bones of sharks, which are cartilage. But the teeth, that's the business end of the shark. That's a hard part. You got dentine and enamel, and at least I think you do. I don't know the exact composition of shark teeth. I'm sure it's different from mammal teeth. But it's a hard part, that's the point. That's what gets fossilized, when the rest of the skeleton doesn't, because the rest of the skeleton's cartilage. Soft stuff. Easily decomposes. Yeah. And why did dinosaurs get so big, asks Frank. Great question. Somebody type in !oxygen, because that command kind of helps answer this. But it is, in some ways, kind of a mystery. Why was the average dinosaur so much bigger than the average mammal today? We used to think it was preservation bias. Big animals getting preserved more readily and then getting discovered more readily. But it turns out, no, when you really dig into the data, dinosaurs were just bigger on average than mammals. Why? I think a big part of it might be dinosaur ontogeny. So dinosaurs were, one species of dinosaur would be occupying multiple different niches at different growth stages. And so they're kind of niche partitioning through, ontogenetically. Mammals don't do that. It's usually one mammal species per niche. For every ecological job, you've got one mammal species. Dinosaurs were less speciose, less species rich than mammals, we think. Or at least that's what I think, and that seems to be a growing consensus among dinosaur paleontologists. And as a result, dinosaurs are getting larger and moving through different ecosystems, and that might be part of the whole gigantism thing. But also other stuff too, dinosaurs had really cool adaptations in their skeletons for being really large. Sauropods especially. We talked about this toward the beginning of our stream today. Sauropods had this cool respiratory system, just like modern birds, where their vertebrae had hollows and air sacs and pneumatic spaces in there to make them much more lightweight, make it easier to move around and support their weight on land and get really, really big. And they could feed really quickly because they didn't chew their food, so they could bulk up really fast. It's another key to getting large. And also, laying eggs. It's one I didn't mention earlier. Laying eggs seems to be one of the keys to getting super gigantic on land. Because you can be really, really big and have an enormous body, and you don't have to carry around one huge fetus inside you. You just have a bunch of little eggs. And so there's fewer constraints on your overall body size as a result of that. Does that make sense? Yeah. But yeah. And what's your favorite dinosaur? Because no one ever asked that to adults. Pixie Lins, that's one of my most common questions here. I've got a number of favorite dinosaurs. But let me pick one to tell you about. You know what? We'll say Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus is one of my favorite dinosaurs. You've seen it in Jurassic Park. That is not actually a very good depiction of Dilophosaurus. With its short, doofy snout and its little crests and the weird frill thing. They didn't have that. Dilophosaurus was a big dinosaur. That sucker was 20 plus feet long, full grown. The crest looked different. It was an apex predator in its environment. And it's one of my favorite dinosaurs because I got to work on it when I was in high school. I got to work on some of the holotype specimen of Dilophosaurus, and the paratypes, lectotypes, the one with the good crest. I got to work on that too, and that was pretty awesome. So that was kind of a formative experience for me. Dinosaur will always have a special place in my heart as a result. So, yay, dinosaurs. We got a raid here. 237 raiders from Ray Dempto. Ray Dempto, thank you for Ray Dempting us with your raid. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. And welcome to wild and beautiful western Wyoming. I'm out here with a crew of paleontologists and volunteers, and we are digging up dinosaurs. So there's the Ceratopsian quarry up there. And we're digging up what will hopefully be a new species or a new genus of horned dinosaur. Ceratopsian. Pretty exciting stuff. So I was working up there earlier helping clear a bunch of overburden. The quarry's a little bit too crowded for me to be up there right now, and I've got to stream anyway to pay the bills. So here we are. We came here to get educated. Well, I'm glad, Patrick saying. You were in the right place. Ray Dempsto, how was your stream? I hope it was really good. What did you get up to? Tell me about it. Let's get another shout out for you, too. Here to expand your education through the stream. I am glad Harry loves to play. Welcome, welcome. If it's your first time here, which for many of you that's probably the case, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. Hopefully you know already that a paleontologist is a fossil scientist who studies fossils. So paleontologists study all kinds of fossils. The preserved remains of ancient living things, from, fossil plants to fossil plankton, from fossil whales to fossil rabbits. Well, it starts with W. Dinosaurs are just the tip of the iceberg, but dinosaurs are what I work on. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. That's what we're doing here, is working on dinosaurs, digging some up. Let me know if you've got any questions. This is the best way that I know of doing science outreach to a large audience, is to do live broadcasts like this during, when it's not summertime. I'm streaming from my office back in the Bay Area in California, answering questions, going over new fossil science publications, interviewing other paleontologists, all that good stuff. This is how I make my living, streaming full time. But during the field season, I do like I've always done, go out and dig up dinosaurs, and now we're able to stream it, which is super exciting, and I'm glad you're here for it. Welcome. Dr. Alan Grant. So, Utkast, Alan Grant is obviously a fictional character, but he's based on my old boss, Jack Horner. I used to work for Jack and work for his grad students when I was at Montana State University and Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana. I lived in Bozeman for the better part of a decade and dug up a ton of dinosaurs out in Montana, and that's basically where I learned how to be a dinosaur paleontologist. So, yeah. So if there seems to be some academic family resemblance there, that's why. Yeah. Shout out to the Bay. Yeah, Hecky for life, absolutely. And Bigger, thank you for the Prime sub. I appreciate that. Excellent. Thank you, thank you. Keeps me going here. How often is a fossilized dinosaur poop found, and what can we learn from it? Ella Rain, that's a great question. So fossil dung is extremely scientifically important. Coprolite is the scientific term for that. Coprolite is fossil feces, fossil dung, fossil poop. And the reason it's important is that it can tell us a lot about what an animal was eating, which tells us a lot about its place in the environment and all of that. You can look at the bones and teeth of different dinosaurs, for instance, to try and figure out, what they're eating, what is their role in the environment. But that can be a little indirect. More direct evidence of what they're eating is, their droppings. And so when you find that, it gives you immediate information about what they were eating. And that's extremely important for understanding the dynamics of these ancient ecosystems. What are these different critters doing? What is their ecological role? All that stuff. Oh, yeah. Let's see. And how often does it get found? It can be really tricky to find, actually. There are paleontologists who specialize in that. Karen Chin is doubtless the most famous coprolithologist. I think she's at University of Colorado, I want to say. But she studies fossil droppings. That's her specialty. And she's done some really, really cool work. But they can be hard to find. They can be hard to identify in the field. I've found coprolites before, but they've mostly been from crocodiles. Crocodilians have got these really distinctive kind of poop shapes. It's kind of a little corkscrew shape almost, just like modern crocodiles. And I found a bunch of those in the Hell Creek and the Judith River Formation, and I've collected a bunch. Yeah. Dinosaur poop is a bit more rare. And the droppings of carnivores are more common than the droppings of herbivores, which is counterintuitive because herbivores are much more common on the landscape, but their poop doesn't fossilize as well because it doesn't have like calcium in it. Carnivores are eating bone and meat and stuff. There's a lot of calcium in there that makes it so that dung fossilizes much more readily. With herbivores, it's just plant material. And so it's much more rare to find those. So I hope that answers your question. It was a good one. Thank you. And Makatone, thank you for those gift subs. Is that 10 of them? Holy moly. Do I appreciate that. Extraordinary. Thank you, Makatone. Excellent. Love that. Thanks for supporting our work out here and supporting these streams. This would not be possible without the generous support of you good folks watching from home and work and elsewhere. So thank you for that. Tapir says, if you find the poop, how do you know what it belongs to? Yeah, or as Karen Chin would say, how do you figure out who the poopatrator was? It's tricky. It is tricky. It's often not possible to narrow it down to species level, but if it's a really, really big, coprolite from a plant-eating animal, you basically go through your faunal list. You try and go through your list of different animals you know lived in that environment and see if any of them match, And sometimes you're lucky. Maybe there's only a few really big plant-eating dinosaurs in a given environment, and you can say, okay, this is probably hadrosaur poop. This might be from Maiasaura, or it might be from Gripposaurus, or something like that, It's all very context-specific. And why were elephant bird eggs bigger than sauropod eggs? Asked Samar Faye. And Bussin' Bacon Boy asked how often dinosaur eggs are found. Dinosaur eggs are really common in certain parts of the world. But it might be like a local environment chemistry sort of thing. Certain environments are just, the chemistry is right to preserve eggshell. In certain environments, maybe the soil is too acidic and eggshell just disintegrates not long after the critters hatch. So yeah, certain places, dinosaur eggs are, I would say, more common than dinosaur body fossils, more common than bones. And in certain environments, you never find fossil eggshell. Like the Hell Creek Formation, famously, almost no eggshell has been found in the Hell Creek. And it might be just a local chemistry kind of thing. The chemical composition in those sediments that formed the Hell Creek Formation, just maybe too acidic or too wet or something going on where the eggshell just did not get preserved. But yeah. Let's see. Scroll. Oh, and why do elephant birds have larger eggs than sauropods? Probably because that's really important for them. It might have been like elephant birds are famously very large birds. The largest, heaviest birds that ever lived, as far as we know. And that might help them survive just having really, really large chicks. They're less likely to get eaten by predators the larger they are, so there's an advantage to having your chicks be born as large as possible. With sauropods, maybe there wasn't that same pressure there. And maybe they were more of a quantity over size kind of a deal, where like a mother sauropod, maybe she'd lay 20, 30, 40, 50 eggs. And so having more eggs is more important than having fewer eggs and having them be bigger, you know? It's just a bit different strategy. Yeah. Great question. Great question. Yeah. Let's see. Ancient Freya. Yeah, fieldwork again. Absolutely. Welcome back, Freya. And what is it about Utah, Montana, etc. that dinosaur fossils are so common there? Gamers Tavern Show. Great question. There's a few different things that like all fall into place to make the Rocky Mountain region, like the eastern part of the Rocky Mountain region makes it really excellent for finding fossils. Part of it is luck, that when these particular rocks were being formed, there were a bunch of dinosaurs around. But another big part of it is having the Rocky Mountains here. That orogeny, that mountain building, pushed this area up, and rather than this being just buried under, thousands of feet of soil or whatever, instead this is like a mountainous region where you've got all this erosion happening. And so you've got exposed rock all over the place. Also, it's dry. You don't have a lot of lush plant growth here. In fact, this is about as lush as I've ever seen Wyoming. They must have had a really wet spring this year. Oh, there's a chipmunk over there. I don't know if I can get him on camera. Oh, here we go. I don't know if you could see that. Let's sneak up on this chipmunk. Be quiet, Chad. Maybe we can get him. Where'd he go? Oh, shoot. Hiding. Darn mammals. Those pesky mammals. What was I saying? Oh yeah, an arid environment. So like this area being dry means you don't have a lot of plant growth, and you've got all this beautiful exposed rock right there on the surface. Just making it a wonderful place to find fossils. So that's the reason why Wyoming and Montana, Utah, North and South Dakota, Colorado, these are great places for finding vertebrate fossils. Are fossils found in caves as well? Absolutely. Game Over Girl, yeah. They tend to be more recent fossils, though. So like fossils from the last few thousand years often get preserved in caves. Even what we call subfossils. So subfossils are usually bones that they haven't been fully fossilized, so they haven't been like permineralized, partially turned to stone. Instead, it's just like, maybe there's a little bit of mineral replacement, but for the most part, it's like original material, original like organic bone material in there. So we get that in places like, I don't know, later in the summer, you'll meet Don DeBlue, and maybe he'll tell you about working in some caves in Madagascar, finding things like giant lemurs and stuff like that, finding their bones in there. And those, I think, were all subfossils. They're all from the Pleistocene, from just a few thousand years ago, maybe up to about 500,000 years ago. And, yeah. We don't find dinosaur fossils in caves, usually. But they do sometimes get found in stuff like coal mines. Some of the most famous dinosaur fossils from Europe, for instance, are from a coal mine in Belgium. Bernissar is the name of the town there. And those were found by mistake. That happens a lot, actually. Or it has happened a lot. Sometimes when people just go digging big holes in the ground, they'll stumble across some fossils, maybe even some dinosaurs. But when you're targeting dinosaurs or you're going out to find them, you come out to a region like this and you prospect. You walk along the ground, you look for bits of bone that are starting to erode out on the surface, you follow those in, you try and find the source, and then if you're lucky, you get a skeleton like we've got here at this site. So it's, that's what it's all about. And why doesn't hair, horn, scales fossilize more? Isn't keratin like super durable? It's not. No. Occasionally, if we've got exquisite preservation, we'll get preserved keratin, but usually that stuff rots, Bones are much more resilient than keratin. So yeah, you do get preserved fossilized keratin sometimes, but it's not common. Usually that shows you that like you've got really, really excellent preservation. And the other source is, are dinosaur bones more often mineralized and not real bones, or are they more often real bones without too much mineral replacement? I mean, they're all real bones. They're just... It doesn't mean that they're not real once they get fossilized. So I want to clarify that. But you're asking whether or not there's like organic material in there, like the like squishy stuff. Fossilization is the process by which some of that squishy stuff gets replaced by, by mineral. And you get different levels of mineralization in different geological formations and at different individual sites. Up in Montana in the Hell Creek Formation and the Judith River Formation, sometimes there's still organic material in those bones. I've been working at Triceratops sites where, you're removing the rock and then there's just beautiful Triceratops humerus right there or something, upper arm bone, and then you just get this waft of smell where it's like, ooh. Smells very organic. Whether or not that's the original smell of that dinosaur's bone, or whether that's like some sort of microbial mat or something going on there, I couldn't tell you. But I do know that soft tissue has been found in dinosaur fossils from the Hell Creek and Judith River formations. So like they'll dissolve away the mineral from some of these bones with acid. Mary Schweitzer is famous for doing this. And sometimes there's still original soft tissue in there, soft material, organic material, stuff like collagen or like remnants of red blood vessels, red blood cells, stuff like that. Yeah, I need to get some more water. But yeah. And can fossilization be fast or is it slow? So generally fossilization seems to be slow, but like any process, with different conditions, I'm sure you can get different rates. Really, really good preservation, probably, I would guess, that entails more rapid fossilization before the stuff can totally rot away. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on the fossilization process. There are some researchers for whom that's their specialty. That's what they do. That's their bread and butter. I'm not one of those researchers. That's not my bag. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a more specific answer than that without just wildly speculating, All right. And what about the hard parts of the bone? That's still bone, right? Oh yeah, the source, yeah. Yeah. So bone is mostly what, like hydroxyapatite, I think? I think so. You can look it up. Yeah, and so, again, I'm not an expert in this. It's not the sort of thing that I study. Maybe Glenn would have some insight on this. Maybe, I don't want to put him on the spot. But, yeah, let's go check. Yeah. And then I'll have to wrap this up pretty soon here, because we should be leaving by about 6. And want to make sure I'm not delaying us. Yeah. Let's walk up here. Alright, looks like work is continuing apace. Excellent. Glenn, can I put you on the spot? We've got a question about diagenesis and fossilization. And you probably know a lot more about this than I do. Do you know if, really good preservation, like with integument and stuff, do you think that would be more rapid than, this kind of fossilization? Like, is it the quicker it happens, the more soft tissue you can get, or something like that?
Yeah, that would certainly be part of the case. But
Yeah.
oftentimes, when I guess we're talking about the hadrosaur and the skin impressions and things like that?
We weren't right now, but we will in the future. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
In that sort of
Here,
situation,
sit down if you don't mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
For instance, we did a lot of work at a site in Montana called the Mother's Day site.
Uh-huh.
Found a lot of skin impressions. And the way we interpret those, as with many of the classic hadrosaur mummies, is that the animals were desiccated first.
So they're
under
dried
a
on
very
the
dry
surface.
environment. So it's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
you see in the African savanna. Something dies
Uh-huh.
at a ephemeral water hole.
Uh-huh.
It lays out there, its carcass dries out, so the skin is kind of hard and tough.
Yeah, yeah.
And under those kind of circumstances, then burial would allow impressions of the skin to be preserved. Now, the actual biomolecules and things like that,
Uh-huh.
that might need more of a faster burial and
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, having said that, we have some biomolecules
Yeah.
in our site
Yeah.
in Montana too. But
Oh, you do? From the
we-
Mother's Day
we
quarry?
do. We just started
Holy
to take a look
cow.
at those.
Wow, from the
We're
Jurassic.
finding melanosomes.
Really? In the
Yeah.
skin? Fantastic. Those are the color cells in the skin. Super, super cool.
Yeah.
So we might have some sort of an understanding of what color dinosaurs like Diplodocus or Gallimimus or Suacia
We
might have been?
might, and we're dealing with juvenile individuals. It may have been a different color.
Yeah, as adults, yeah.
As adults. So
Probably were, I would imagine. But
this-
yeah,
This
yeah.
is brand new stuff. We don't have all the.
That is
data.
really exciting. Holy cow. Yeah. Because as far as I understand it, like well, I guess if they're melanosomes, yeah. I was thinking about like Mary Schweitzer's biomolecular stuff. The oldest of that is like Campanian, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think we have any Jurassic stuff like that yet, but yeah. And as for the actual like fossilization of bones are mostly, what is it, hydroxyapatite?
Yeah. So people think of bones as being turned to stone.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Petrified.
Uh-huh.
What they really are is permineralized.
Mhm.
So the organic material, the collagen, the proteins, all that,
Yeah,
typically gone.
yeah.
The pore space is filled with mineralization. But the original inorganic skeletal framework, the hydroxyapatite,
Yeah.
that's still there. So you've really got the real bone.
Gotcha,
It's
okay.
just- it's quite different because it's heavy and it's fragile. It doesn't have the flexibility without the proteins.
Okay.
That sort of thing. So they're not just a pure rock.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
permanent-
There's actual like organic material, like stuff that was produced during the animal's lifetime is still there, part of that dinosaur, but just not the soft squishy bits.
That's right.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Glenn.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot.
People do
Yeah.
it all the time.
So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Excellent. Yeah. And that does make sense, doesn't it? Yeah. And and Melissa says, is this person a teacher? Very good projection and easy to hear.
Well, by
Yeah.
default, I suppose I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks again, Glenn. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. We'll walk down here and get out of range of this overburden being thrown here. Yeah, we'll be wrapping this up pretty soon here, everybody. And no, but Glenn did teach for a long time. I don't know if he still does, but it's definitely got the makings of an excellent educator, as you can see right there. Not the makings of, he is an excellent educator. Yeah. And Creative Steve says, thanks, Danny, for the cozy stream today. I'm glad you're feeling cozy. I wouldn't characterize this environment out here as cozy, but I'm glad you are, wherever you are. Yeah, that makes me happy. Glad you enjoyed. Yeah, and Thomas, how are you doing? Welcome. And I'm already educated just by the simple talk. Absolutely, Death Source. That's what we're here for. And you know, that's the cool thing about being in the field is that I'm learning a lot out here too. Not just from like digging and learning new things about this particular environment, but having conversations with colleagues. Like I don't know, I'd never met Glenn Storrs before, or Takuya, or Cameron, or any of these people from Cincinnati. So it's really cool to make new connections and listen to them talk about their areas of expertise, their own research, what they're working on. All this stuff is really important, and I feel like this makes me a better educator too. Like I would not be as good at what I do on Twitch back when I'm at home doing live streams 5 days a week, weekdays, talking about fossil news and stuff. If I didn't have this perspective from doing field work almost every year since 2011, you know? This is important stuff to have that experience, to have that interaction with colleagues. It's important, you know? It's important to stay on top of what the current consensus is in different areas of fossil science, and, you know, be able to hear all that hot science gossip, you know? Yeah. Friends you hadn't met yet. There you go, Evelyn. Yeah. And Tomas says, I'd never thought of these kinds of content on Twitch. This is so awesome. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Yeah. For you and anybody else who might be new here, let me again introduce myself for the 14th time in today's stream. Thank you for sitting through these intros, everybody. But yeah, my name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. And yeah, a paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils. I work on dinosaur fossils in particular, and that's what we're digging up here. I'll be streaming almost every day in the month of June from here in Wyoming, as often as I can stream, as close to every day as possible, here to walk you through how we collect fossils, how we dig up dinosaurs, how we gather data, and learn about the history of life on our incredible planet Earth. I believe pretty strongly in, you know, showing and not just telling, if it's possible. That's what I'm trying to do here, and I'm glad you can come along for the ride. It's only because of the generosity of this community and all the support they've given this channel that this is possible. The satellite dish and the router and the solar panels and solar generator and carrying cases and everything. This camera and encoder and all this gear was paid for by this community. So thank you for that, everybody. You made this possible, and I hope you're enjoying this. I wanted to provide something that was unique. You know, nobody else is doing anything like this on Twitch or really anywhere else online. So it's a privilege to be able to bring this to you, and I'm so glad you could be here. And I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to be able to conduct fieldwork and do research and outreach all at once, you know? Getting multiple birds stoned at once. Yeah. Watching from New Zealand, says Hotel Whiskey NZ, hence the NZ in your name. Welcome to wild and beautiful western Wyoming in the old US of A. My 13-year-old son decided at age 8 he was going to be a paleontologist, so he's going to love this. He will. You know what? He sounds like me. That was me at age 8 and earlier. Yeah. My parents say I decided I wanted to become a paleontologist the same day I realized I couldn't grow up to be a dinosaur. And here I am. So anything that I can do to help inspire the next generation of fossil scientists, you know, I'm all for it. So it's good to have you here. Good to have you here, Hotel Whiskey NZ, and thank you for the gift sub there. No, not the gift sub, you just subscribed. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thanks for supporting this work. And, yeah, believe it or not, a big part of our budget this year for field work, and including a ton of our gear, was provided by this community. So, we really appreciate that, everybody. You may not realize it, but while you're watching, you're actually helping support paleontological research and fieldwork. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. Anyway, and any advice that you need for your young aspiring paleontologist, I'm here to give it. So yeah, whatever I can do to help out, let me know. Geology in sixth form high school. Very nice, Obal. Yeah. Geology that's half of what we do out here, basically. Paleontology is kind of a mixture of biology and geology. Although, when we're in the field, it's very geology heavy. As you can imagine. But yeah, kindred spirits. It's so cool that you're watching, Obal. Thanks for being here. Yeah. And let's see.
Ontogeny.
Darkmock Rises says, what's the best way to support these digs now that you're in the field, Danny? Oh. Well, we're kind of already out here and our budget's already kind of set, but you know, if you want to send me money via Ko-Fi, I can and put a note in it that it's to go to this, then I can Venmo that to Ethan, and we can use that to buy extra food and stuff like that for the crew, if you'd really like to contribute. Yeah. I believe we have a Ko-Fi link in chat, right? Yeah. But we're doing pretty well, though, so far, so don't feel obligated. But you know we appreciate anything we get. When we do a camp stream, when I show you around camp later on, maybe in the next few days, I'll be eager to show you a lot of our gear and stuff like that, which was paid for directly by members of the community via the Amazon wishlist. Yeah. And thank you for subscribing, Yo Jumbo. I appreciate that. Yeah. Nice. Can you put snacks as a line item on grant applications? Ms. Blue Skies. I'm sure you could. I don't know if that'll get you funded, though. Yeah. Yeah. Makes me want to take a break from computer science now and return to my history roots again for a while. Creative Steve, that's awesome. Yeah. That sounds cool. Maybe you should. Yeah. What does the budget of a summer dig look like? I remember Alan Grant being super excited over $50,000 for a few years. Yeah, that's kind of a lot, actually. I don't know. Last summer, our budget was, I think it was about $9,000 for the whole summer with a big crew, and about, I think almost half of that was like vehicle rental, because Ethan didn't have a truck. He doesn't have a truck. We rented one this year, too. This year, I think our full budget is, it's a little bit less than $20K. And that's with a huge crew here. We've got like 20 people in camp. And we've got multiple rented vehicles. And we've got to buy, you know, expensive equipment like rock saws and stuff like that. So, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of money to me, but for a big scientific expedition where we're uncovering multiple new species of dinosaur, $20,000 is not, that's peanuts. That's nothing. That's chump change. So you really get excellent bang for your buck here when you're funding fossil science, when you're funding a dinosaur dig. Yeah. It's pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, we're digging up fossils that people are going to be talking about and studying and looking at in museums for the next, a few centuries. It's pretty cool to think about. Yeah. And thank you for subscribing, Bumsy Bear. I really appreciate that. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for funding fossil science. Exactly, Bumsy Bear. Thank you for helping fund fossil science through your subscription. I really appreciate that. I do this full time, so like streaming, and fossil science. So I've got a lot of friends and colleagues in paleontology who, they kind of went the traditional academic route, and I don't know. They might spend, if they're like an adjunct professor or something, they might spend half of their week applying for different grants and stuff. I've never had to apply for a grant. I can get my funding. I can earn my living by doing science outreach. I can get two birds stoned at once there, and it's awesome. And that's only because of the generosity of this community, and I am deeply, deeply grateful. Yeah. Yeah. Anywho, with that being said, oh shoot, it's later than I thought it was. We're gonna have to get going here pretty soon, and so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this broadcast. Hopefully I can stream again tomorrow, maybe from this same site or maybe from a different site, and we'll be talking more paleontology. We'll be doing more paleontologizing, so stay tuned. And if you want to watch and you haven't followed yet, you know what to do. Yeah, let's see who else is live on Twitch right now, whom we can raid into. And let's see. Back. Watch who is live. Let's see here. Casey Snowart is on. Let's go freak her out. She's got 30 people watching right now. Let's go right into her. And Casey Snowart's one of our moderators here, and she does some paleo art. She's kind of learning how to illustrate dinosaurs and stuff. Give her a heart attack. Casey Snow art. There we go. Yeah. So everybody, you be nice to Casey. Looks like she's doing some sea slug dragon art. It sounds cool. It's always a good time over at Casey Snowart's channel. So we'll go see what she's up to. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your financial support. Thanks for making all this possible. Wish us luck in digging at these sites, and with any luck, I'll be streaming again tomorrow from out here in the field, and we'll do some more paleontologizing. But until then, everybody, you take care of yourselves, and let's go check out Casey Snowart. I'll see you there.